Incredible. I've become the original ancestor of humanity. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 The Troublesome Kid. Your hair is too long. It's disgusting. Ethan had a handsome, half-grown tresses, meticulously trimmed daily, and he thought it perfectly matched his handsome features. But today, Lineage had ruined it all. Two blood-blade mechas soared and leaped across the underground training ground, displaying their unique mechanical violence to the fullest. Bang! Ethan raised his right arm with all his might, blocking Lineage's thrusting left arm and then retreating rapidly. But Lineage's mech followed him like a thorn in his flesh, its rapier thrusting lightly and accurately towards Ethan's cockpit. Gritting his teeth, Ethan leaped to the right, and the bloodblade mech began to dovetail, blocking all angles of attack from Lineage. However, Lineage's bloodblade was one step ahead of him, anticipating the enemy aircraft's preemptive roll, and the sharp rapier finally reached into the cockpit. The sharp edge of the razor blade brushed against Ethan's cheek, slicing off a strand of his hair. The sharp blade was so cold that it tingled Ethan's skin. "Damn it, bastard! That's too much!" The handsome young man's cry echoed through the basement training room, lingering for a long time, filled with anger, panic, and fear. Ethan had been fighting Lineage for 20 minutes, and his initial confidence had given way to panic and anxiety. His carefully trimmed, half-length hair had become riddled with holes, as if it had been gnawed by a dog. When Lineage first arrived at Red Castle Manor, he knew nothing about mechas. Mu had assigned Ethan as his technical advisor, teaching him how to repair and operate mechas. Therefore, Ethan thought he knew Lineage's mecha prowess well. Even though Lineage had destroyed a Federation mecha in the Battle of River Valley No. 6 a few days ago, he didn't think it was anything special. "I taught him, how could it not be amazing?" But today, Ethan had tasted the bitter taste of a disciple beating up his master. This wasn't a clueless Lineage anymore, this was a demonic, soul-snatching demon. A 20-meter-tall mech weighing over 100 tons, wielded a 9-meter-long rapier in the midst of intense combat, repeatedly scraping against your scalp, trimming your hair bit by bit. Could you believe it? But look at every dent on Ethan's head, they were inflicted by Lineage's rapier. It's hard not to believe. When Lineage's first strike sliced through his hair just above his ear, Ethan thought he was going to kill him. The feeling of being just a millimeter away from death was damn near too real. But 20 minutes later, Ethan felt he might as well have been killed. This was Lineage's naked humiliation, a torture-like slow slicing, an inhumane act of abuse. But the dignity of a vampire count prevented Ethan from showing any sign of weakness. The more stubborn he was, the more Lineage tortured him, a vicious cycle that nearly brought him to his knees. Buzz! Lineage's mech engine hummed, catching up with Ethan's. He had already chosen his angle, preparing to strike from Ethan's left side, trying to achieve a symmetrical cut. That's quite a challenge. I was careless. Lineage had fought countless battles in the killing secret realm these days, more than half of which involved mecha battles. So, Lineage thought his skills were perfect, and controlling the mecha to give Ethan a clean, tidy shave was no problem. But when the battle actually began, Lineage realized his expectations were too optimistic. The techniques learned in the killing secret realm were slightly different from those in actual combat. In the secret realm, Lineage passively experienced them. While the understanding was ingrained, it was only through repeated battles that he would gradually master them. At worst, you can shave your head yourself later. Yeah, Lineage suddenly braked, and the bloodblade mecha let out a sharp squeak. Ethan suddenly gave up resistance, opened his arms, and opened the cockpit's defenses. He stood there, glaring fiercely at Lineage. Lineage stopped his mech and took 2 steps forward, their cockpits almost touching. Uncontrollable rage erupted within him. Why didn't you hide? Why didn't you resist? Are you an idiot? Ethan remained silent, his eyes reddening as he stared at Lineage, like a patriot giving up resistance and sacrificing himself for his own death. To die is also a form of stubbornness. Lineage grew even more furious, sneering, "So you're not an idiot, you're just a coward, who, you say, is a coward, you're powerless to resist? If you're not a coward, what are you?" Ethan's eyes turned bloodshot, and he gasped heavily, his blood boiling. Li Ziyi leaned forward, practically touching Ethan's cheek, spitting. To prove you're not a coward, fight to the death, Buzz. Li Ziyi reignited Ethan's fighting spirit. He swung his arm, activating the Bloodblade mech, and launched a frantic attack on Li Ziyi. This attack lasted a whole day and night. He'd faced death countless times. Initially, he'd felt trembling with fear, but by the middle, he'd become numb and indifferent. But by the final stage, Ethan had achieved a breakthrough, instinctively executing the correct tactical response. His mental and tactical resilience had surpassed countless thresholds. However, by the time Li Ziyi had perfected his killing skills, Ethan's body had completely collapsed. Li Ziyi looked at the exhausted, unconscious Ethan and asked softly, "What do you think of his bloodline's potential?" Yu emerged from a corner, first feeding Ethan some bright red nutrient solution, then stated with certainty, "Ethan's bloodline has excellent potential. With father's training, he can now defeat those disgruntled pilots and fully control the 8th Guards Brigade. That's good. Why are you so troublesome?" "I'm so worried." It turned out that just yesterday, Yu had heard that 2 deputy brigade commanders from the 8th Guards Brigade were planning to challenge Ethan in mecha combat, seeking redemption for their broken legs. Ethan, severely injured during his coming-of-age ceremony, had always been a pilot of a mech like the Blood Sniper. Even after recovering, his mech lacked close combat capabilities. In desperation, Li Ziyi devised a plan to use intense stimulation to draw out a latent inheritance deep within his bloodline. Li Ziyi reasoned that since Ethan had awakened the secret realm of slaughter, perhaps some of the legacy of killing was also present in Ethan's bloodline. After a day and a night of guidance, Li Ziyi confirmed that Ethan had inherited some of his own killing talent, a limited one, but enough to sustain his rapid growth. All right. Keep an eye on him for the next few days. Don't let him suffer any setbacks in the Guards Brigade. Young people can be traumatized by setbacks, Li Ziyi sighed, looking at Ethan with the same gaze as a troubled child. "Father, Ethan's talent is actually quite remarkable," Yu said cautiously. Li Ziyi's constant comparisons to her left her feeling frustrated and ashamed. Back then, when she was unconscious, she had absorbed an unknown amount of Li Ziyi's source blood, which led to her current strength. This situation is simply not replicable. But he doesn't have a real name yet, forget it. Li Ziyi stopped dwelling on Ethan's shortcomings and asked, "Muayu, what level and status does a count like Ethan have in the Blood Mu family, a genius who is very worth cultivating? What if our family has more than a dozen such geniuses?" Muayu opened her eyes wide, feeling very panicked. "Wasn't my performance good enough? My father actually needs more than a dozen children to serve him?" Li Ziyi suddenly shook his head and said, "Forget it, let's talk about it when there's a chance. If there are too many, it will be a headache." Li Ziyi had fun training a stubborn Ethan, but if there were more Ethans, it would be an endless headache. Thanks to book friend 20200622074141442 for the reward. Thank you, brother, thank you. Chapter 52 Sailing. Woo woo, a melodious horn blared once again in Red Rock City, but this time it wasn't a warning of war, but a farewell. Today, the master of the Red Castle family was leaving Red Rock City. Residents of the inner city had already poured into the streets, gazing in the direction of Red Castle Manor, where several starships were rapidly ascending. One was the Cold Moon, a large cruiser owned by Marcus Ethan of the Moon Castle family. Two were the Red Castle family's star destroyers, the Red Rock City and the Red Castle, and the third was the Southern Forest, a high-speed, luxurious official starship, which had just arrived in Red Rock City the day before yesterday, a personal gift to Lord Yu from Duke Melton, Vice Speaker of the Crimson Council. When Duke Melton arrived the other day, the entire city erupted in excitement. This was recognition of Lord Yu by the highest authority of the Blood Clan, and a source of honor for all members of the Red Castle family. Meanwhile, aboard the Southern Forest, Yu stood at the window of her luxurious suite, lost in thought as she gazed out at the rapidly shrinking Red Rock City. 30 years ago, she, her brother, and a group of the Red Castle family's last loyalists, arrived in this remote and impoverished territory, shouldering the family's humiliation and beginning their struggle. However, the harsh environment and her less-than-stellar bloodline often left Yu lost in confusion, unable to see any hope for the future. She even prepared herself to never return to the Twilight Continent, desperate to stay with her brother and continue the Red Castle family's bloodline. But all of this changed because of one person. In just 6 months, she had suddenly become a rising star of the vampire clan, adored by the entire Twilight continent. These past few days, she had received more congratulations from the major vampire families than in the entire history of the Red Castle family, not to mention the sheer scale of their gifts. For example, the Southern Forest was a personal gift from Prince Charles, the Speaker of the Scarlet Council. He even personally delivered it to her via a deputy speaker, a truly exceptional honor rarely seen across the entire Twilight continent. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Come in, Ethan. Miu felt her perceptions were growing stronger. Even the privacy walls aboard the Southern Forest couldn't block them. She knew it wasn't just due to her own elevated rank, but also to her bloodline. Ethan opened the door and walked over to Miu, remaining silent. Miu sighed in amusement at her brother's new buzzcut. Just 3 days ago, during his intense training, Li Ziyi, with his masterful mecha piloting skills, had shaved Ethan's beloved hair into a scraggly mess. Ethan was nearly devastated, so Miu forced him into a buzzcut and sent him to compete with the elite pilots of the 8th Guards Brigade. Dejected, Ethan went to the brigade, where he defeated 12 of the top pilots in a mere 30 minutes. The stubborn young man then locked himself in his room for 3 days, ignoring everyone until today, when he boarded the ship. Ethan stood side by side with Miu, watching Red Rock City shrink to a dot. The Crimson Star shrunk into a sphere. He suddenly asked, "Why didn't you let Li Ziyi board this ship?" Miu was somewhat surprised that her brother, who had been in a cold war with her for 3 days, would open his mouth to ask about Li Ziyi, whom she hated so deeply. "I invited him aboard, but he preferred to travel on our family's light starship." Ethan was silent for a moment, then lowered his head and said softly, "I hope it's not my fault. Besides, you should hide your relationship with him." Miu was startled and asked calmly, "What is our relationship?" "We're in a relationship," Ethan continued. "You should openly acknowledge your relationship with Li Ziyi. That way you can avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble." Miu looked down in dismay. After Duke Melton arrived, he had proposed the marriage alliance with the Red Castle family, but she had politely declined. However, it was clear that such proposals would only become more frequent in the future. Ethan then asked, "If I'm not mistaken, Liz is the illegitimate son of some wealthy family in the Federation, right?" Miu raised her chin slightly and said proudly, "No, he doesn't belong to any wealthy family." "He is a wealthy family, I understand. Liz is extremely talented. Only after you and he become true partners can I and others fully trust him." "Well, that's not your concern," Miu interrupted Ethan's narration. She did strongly invite Liz to join her on the Southern Forest, even naming the starship after the place where they first met, but Liz also rejected her proposal. Miu could sense Li Ziyi's wariness of Duke Melton and understood his decision. Ethan lowered his head, his toes rubbing against the ground unconsciously. He whispered, "No matter how low-key you try, you can't hide someone like Li Ziyi. Those wealthy ladies won't let him go once he reaches Twilight Continent." "Sister, don't let him go because of me," Miu asked in surprise. "Don't you hate him anymore?" "I never hated him." Ethan turned and left, slamming the door behind him, his resentment surfacing from nowhere. Miu laughed. Blood is thicker than water, a mysterious feeling. Even though Ethan sometimes wanted to bite Li Ziyi to death, the entanglement of family ties could not be severed. Beep beep beep, the spaceship is preparing to jump. Everyone go to the designated location and wait. No one is allowed to touch the spaceship equipment. Li Ziyi reluctantly put down his book, lowered the window protective deck, and sat in the safety seat in the room. Because several key members of the Red Castle family had followed Miu to the Southern Forest, Li Ziyi became the highest-ranking person aboard the Red Rock City. He therefore had a fully equipped lounge and didn't need to be monitored from designated locations. The Crimson Star was too far from the Twilight Continent, and without interstellar jump technology, the journey would be long and tedious. Using interstellar jump technology, however, required a suitable jump point. Nearby jump points capable of supporting ultra-long-distance jumps were generally found deep within chaotic galaxies. The normally silent starship engines emitted a sharp roar. Li Ziyi could clearly sense a slight tremor throughout the ship, even a faint creaking sound from the internal machinery. Suddenly, the ship jolted violently, and all sound vanished. Li Ziyi felt a slight dizziness, and his acute perception was significantly weakened, only covering his room and a small portion of the ship. The dizziness lasted only a dozen seconds before passing, and all sound and perception returned. So fast. It was Li Ziyi's first time traveling in an interstellar spaceship, and he wasn't sure how long an interstellar jump would take. But a commotion erupted from the ship's corridors. Li Ziyi went outside to listen, and found many people in a state of confusion. What's wrong? Maybe something went wrong. We just jumped to the B-16 relay jump point, which should have taken at least a minute. Are the ship's jump parameters set incorrectly? Or are the engines underpowered and unable to complete the jump? The people inside the starship were saying all sorts of things, and Li Ziyi's brow furrowed. Was his luck really that bad? He opened the protective deck window and was startled to see a sailboat in space outside. It had 3 tall masts and a massive sail, resembling the Black Pearl in the movies, hurtling straight towards the Red Rock City. Seeing the golden mark on the sail, a forgotten memory surfaced in Li Ziyi's mind. Chapter 53 Traitor. Woo woo, a shrill alarm suddenly blared, the most annoying kind of combat alert. Starship combatants, take position. Pilots, assemble in the hangar. Everyone, prepare for battle. The Red Rock City was a light star destroyer, well prepared for combat emergencies. However, it carried many vampire families and servants, so a slight commotion ensued after the alarm. Li Ziyi remained calm, lowering the protective deck over the portholes before picking up several books on the table and quickly leaving the room. 2 of the books were a gift from Jiaming, their last pages inscribed in ancient Calic script with 3 locations. The other, which Mu Yu had just obtained from Duke Milton, contained numerous accounts of civilization from the previous era, providing valuable clues to Li Ziyi's search for the refuge. The chaos on the starship hadn't subsided yet, with occasional women's screams piercing the air, creating a tingling sensation. However, the vampire warriors remained largely calm, rushing to their respective combat positions. Li Ziyi heard them exclaim, "Foolish pirates," but Li Ziyi knew the sailboat outside wasn't a pirate. He passed through the central working corridor of the starship, using his ID card to open one partition door after another. Pushing aside several guards who wanted to question him, he finally reached the starship's cockpit. The atmosphere inside the cockpit was completely different from outside. When Li Ziyi suddenly opened the hatch, several soldiers drew their weapons and aimed at him. "Don't shoot." The captain of the Red Rock City stopped the guards and asked Li Ziyi in surprise, "Mr. Li Ziyi, how did you get here?" He knew the masked man was highly regarded by his lord, the Earl, but he hadn't imagined he possessed such high-ranking authority, even allowing access to the most prestigious cockpit on the starship. "Now I should ask you, why is the temple ship here? Where are the rest of our ships? That's not my place. Our jump went awry, and we got separated from the other ships. I don't know how we encountered the temple ship." The captain of the Red Rock City wanted to refuse, but a sudden surge of heart palpitations overtook him, and he instinctively revealed the truth. Bloodline suppression not only affects Mu Yu and Ethan, who share a bloodline connection, but also has a certain effect on all other lower-rank vampires. The greater the difference in bloodline quality, the greater the suppression. "Lord Liz, I'm investigating the cause and contacting the Earl. I'm also preparing to return to the warp wormhole and randomly set the warp parameters to escape from here." Facing Li Ziyi, the captain felt as if his life and death were controlled by someone else. He hurriedly and frantically explained, leaving the crew members perplexed. Was this still the majestic and formidable captain they knew? "You did well," Li Ziyi nodded, praising the captain. It was undeniable that the captain's decision was correct. The Red Rock City was merely a star destroyer, lacking interstellar instant communication capabilities. By the time the message was relayed to the hidden relay station in space, and then contacted Mu Yu and the others, and they arrived to rescue him, it would have been long gone. As the orders were passed down, the Red Rock City, having just emerged from the interstellar warp, slowly turned and accelerated towards the warp point. But just as the Red Rock City began accelerating, before reaching jump speed, it suddenly lost power. "What's going on?" the captain shouted anxiously. "Captain, there's an engine problem, Captain. A lifeboat has been launched without authorization." Through the cockpit window, Li Ziyi saw a space escape craft moving away from the Red Rock City, while the retro-style sailing starship was already approaching. "Captain, the engine won't restart, and the main guns are running low on energy." The captain's face paled. Losing engine power at this critical juncture seemed to seal the fate of the Red Rock City. "Reveal the truth. The vampires remain, and let the others enter the escape pods. Gunners, fire freely," Launch space torpedoes. A shrill alarm rang out, and the Red Rock City's crew began evacuating the passengers. This was a family move, and the starship contained many vampire families, dependent servants, and valuable technical personnel. Send someone to repair the engines as soon as possible, and find out who's on board the first escape pod. Li Zihe looked at the slyly launched escape pod and sensed a strong hint of conspiracy. The captain said with a bitter face, "Sir, it doesn't matter anymore. No matter who he is, we'll all die in battle today." After several escape pods launched, the Red Rock City's main guns began charging and firing. Countless space torpedoes swooped down on the sailing starship like sharks at the scent of blood. But it was all in vain. The sail-shaped starship looked old-fashioned and its hull was not particularly large, yet its defenses were incredibly formidable. The Red Rock City's laser main gun struck its hull, sending only ripples of kinetic energy. The space torpedoes detonated before they even got close. "It's the Temple's Muguan-class battleship. Why are they targeting us? Damn it. We must have been betrayed. There's a traitor among us." As the sail starship drew closer, the crew in the cockpit let out a series of cries of surprise. Li Zihe frowned and asked, "Why aren't the enemy fighting back?" The captain gritted his teeth and said, "They want to engage us in a boarding battle and capture us alive, but we won't let them succeed." "Then prepare for a boarding battle." Li Zihe, seeing no point in staying here, turned and headed for the starship's hangar, where he housed his Bloodblade mech and the mobile suits needed for boarding. The Bloodblade mech was capable of space boarding, but its 20-meter-tall frame made it suitable only for boarding larger starships. A light star destroyer like the Red Rock City didn't have the space for it. Like the others, Li Zihe used his mobile suit, acting like a poor Iron Man, preparing for hand-to-hand combat within the cramped interior of the starship. Boom! The violent collision finally arrived, the bow ram of the galleon ramming into the midsection of the Red Rock City. Several grappling hooks pierced the Red Rock City's hull, firmly linking the two ships together. Then, countless enemies clad in copper-yellow armor rushed in. "Attack!" the Red Rock City's captain commanded, and Li Zihe's Blood Clan mobile suits howled as they charged forward. Li Zihe was about to follow, but suddenly his scalp tingled, a strong sense of alarm rising within him. His danger perception alerted him sharply, and the source of the danger was the Red Rock City's power module. Li Zihe's keen senses detected the rapidly rising energy fluctuations. He turned and ran deep into the hangar, removing his mobile suit as he ran. Li Zihe's speed reached his Bloodblade mech in seconds, verified his identity, and opened the cockpit. After jumping in, he didn't even have time to start the main engine, and used the emergency backup power to take protective action. With legs tucked up and chest hugged, the mechanical legs and arms protected the fragile cockpit cover, and the machine locked. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion followed, and a strong shock wave instantly ravaged the space, destroying all living things around. Puff! The huge Bloodblade Metro was thrown into the air like a toy, and Li Zihe spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Some book friends said that Lao Feng was short and weak. For the sake of a man's dignity, Lao Feng had to explain. When this book was recommended, it had already reached more than 100,000 words, 2 weeks later than many authors. If it is 6,000 to 7,000 words a day, it will probably be on the shelves next week, so Lao Feng can only update twice a day. The average is about 5,000 words. After it is on the shelves, Lao Feng will try his best to update. Please help me, Brother Jue. If you have tickets, please support it. If you don't have tickets, just read for a few minutes. It is also a heartwarming care. Thanks, Greek letter Omega. Chapter 54 Lower Life. Li Zihe was awakened by the cold. He struggled to open his eyes, exhaling the stagnant air in his chest, which then transformed into a cloud of white mist stained with blood. The Bloodblade mech remained locked, legs hunched over its chest, but peering through the gaps in its mechanical arms, he saw that the outside was no longer the hangar of the Red Rock City, but space, strewn with vast amounts of starship debris. Li Zihe tried to move, but found that not only was his body frozen stiff, his internal organs severely damaged, and his blood and energy nearly completely depleted. The bloodline inscriptions within his body, sensing Li Zihe's desire to save himself, began to vibrate violently, pumping out streams of blood and energy, channeling them throughout his body. Li Zihe waved his arms, and like a rusted machine, he began to work again. The negative effects of jamming, pain, cold, and dizziness surged over him, nearly causing him to faint again. Thankfully, the backup engine isn't broken. There's always a way out. Li Ziyi checked the status of the Bloodblade mech and formed a plan in confidence in his own rescue. The Bloodblade mech was capable of space-boarding engagements. Its main and backup engines could operate in space, and it was equipped with a grappling hook for boarding and climbing, along with a comprehensive suite of auxiliary tools. Buzz! Li Ziyi started the Bloodblade mech's backup engine, but the noise was like a tractor, like a consumptive patient about to expire at any moment. The various alarms within the mech's cockpit pierced his eardrums. But at least the living environment within the cockpit was gradually recovering, the temperature rising rapidly, and the mech regained some mobility. The Bloodblade extended its mechanical arms, and Li Ziyi took in the debris-strewn expanse of space. The Red Rock City had been shattered, its crew and equipment scattered everywhere. In the distance, a larger starship hell lay unseen. Judging by its appearance and make, it was the Temple's Muguan-class battleship. Li Ziyi's body had warmed up, but his blood and energy were already faltering. A strong sense of weakness and drowsiness overcame him, making him unwilling to waste a single minute. He hurriedly opened the cockpit storage compartment and donned his survival suit. It consisted of a mobile suit with oxygen purification and a rectangular, rigid metal storage compartment. After stowing all his belongings in the compartment, Li Ziyi opened the Bloodblade's cockpit cover. The icy cold of space instantly seeped in. Without the protection of the mobile suit, Li Ziyi wondered if he could hold out for even a few minutes. Turning on the Bloodblade's work lights, Li Ziyi controlled the suit and leaped out of the cockpit. Space offered no resistance, and Li Ziyi's body, guided by Newton's first law, glided forward. When he sensed a deviation from his direction, he would either fire his rifle, exploiting the immense reaction force of the expanding gunpowder, or slowly cast out a survival hook, snagging fragments of scattered starship debris along a pre-planned path. Then, he would slowly pull, turn, and accelerate. As he pulled forward, Li Ziyi saw countless people frozen to death, left in space. There was a very beautiful vampire girl who had been delivering meals to Li Ziyi not long ago. Her gentle smile didn't impress Li Ziyi at the time, but her enthusiasm still left an impression on him. Li Ziyi also saw the captain of the Red Rock City, with only the upper body left. His face was scratched, but his wide eyes made Li Ziyi understand that he died in anger, not fear. There were also many vampires who were not close to Li Ziyi, who died in the dark and cold space. Damn it, Li Ziyi couldn't help but curse. Yu said that these people were his people. A farmer raised a large flock of chickens, ducks, dogs and geese. On weekdays, he thought they were noisy and annoying, but when they were really harmed by weasels, the heartache was only known to him. After nearly half an hour of struggling, Li Ziyi finally approached the largest piece of starship wreckage. This was the bow of the Muguan-class battleship, surrounded by the hulls of numerous temple warriors. Clearly, the Red Rock City's engine explosion had also caused significant damage. Li Ziyi used a survival rope to lasso the wreckage and slid in like a fish, exploring the bow through the holes within. After a while, Li Ziyi found a hidden compartment containing an intact escape pod. Amazing, Li Ziyi was stunned. He was certain he had never seen any of the temple's starships, yet he had instinctively and without hesitation found this hidden escape pod. Using his mobile suit to manually open the escape pod's hatch, Li Ziyi climbed in, started up, and launched. Everything went so smoothly, so inexplicably. It seems my ancestors were truly amazing. The escape pod headed for the nearest gray planet. Li Ziyi estimated the time, swallowed a few sachets of nutrient solution, and then closed his eyes to rest, preparing for the next survival test. Generally speaking, the spatial force fields near interstellar jump points are not very stable. Otherwise, relying solely on a starship's jump engines wouldn't be enough to open a space tunnel. This is why long-distance jump points are often located deep within chaotic galaxies. The more chaotic the force fields, the more they can support large-scale, high-mass interstellar jumps. Chaos marks the end of stable order and the beginning of another. Accordingly, planets near jump points, exposed to a chaotic force field for extended periods, naturally offer a poor living environment on the surface. 7 hours later, Li Ziyi stepped onto the land of the gray planet. The gravity was roughly twice that of the Crimson Planet, and the surface was desolate, devoid of any signs of plant life. Li Ziyi first pulled out his personal phone, opened the Kaneo Station app, and ordered a number of survival supplies. Everything was functioning normally. With food and drink resolved, Li Zihe felt reassured. He removed the power supply from the escape pod, fashioned a sled using the hatch and ropes, and towed it further afield. The Red Rock City had launched several escape craft ahead of time, and those people should have landed on the planet as well. Finding them would provide detailed information about the planet and help them find a chance to escape. Finding the first lifeboat launched would be even better. Li Zihe would give that traitor a taste of gentle cruelty. However, the most urgent task was to find a cave to shelter from the wind and rain and keep warm. Upon landing, Li Zihe had measured the thickness of this planet's atmosphere, and it was much thinner than that of Crimson Star. While he couldn't accurately estimate the nighttime surface temperature, it was definitely around -70 or -80 degrees Celsius. The power supply on the mobile suits wasn't as abundant as the mechas, so they had to be conserved, using the heating sparingly if possible. 2 hours later, Li Zihe found a cave entrance. Its shape and layout looked familiar. No way, Li Zihe only had time to sigh softly before a swarm of reptiles burst out of the cave. A disgusting mouthpart was filled with teeth, and disgusting pus oozed from its oozing skin. It crawled like a maggot, twitching and slithering. Though it looked nothing like the insects Li Zihe had seen in the Killing Secret realm, they were undoubtedly related. Li Zihe immediately abandoned his sled and retreated tactically. He was extremely weak, and this mobile suit, designed for survival, lacked sufficient armor. Being surrounded would be disastrous. The saliva alone would be enough to make him sick. Since he couldn't use the Gatling gun near the cave entrance, Li Zihe decided to employ guerrilla tactics, defeating them piecemeal. 10 minutes later, Li Zihe leaned on a double-edged heavy sword, panting like a consumptive. Around him lay a dozen or so insects, powerless and struggling. Li Zihe's distress wasn't due to kidney deficiency, but rather the after-effects of his blood and energy depletion. The impact of the starship explosion had taken a heavy toll on his body, and he estimated that he wouldn't even be able to defeat a D-class Esper at this point. Li Zihe untied a section of his armor and felt the planet's atmosphere, confirming he could withstand the brief exposure. The Anxiang knife appeared in his hand, and despite a strong sense of nausea, he slowly approached the dying insect. Li Zihe wasn't craving fresh insect flesh, rather, the plunder inscription within his body was sending him a strong desire to devour. Can this thing really be plundered? After encountering the Zerg from StarCraft in the Killing Secret realm, Li Zihe had drawn several pictures of the bugs and asked Mu for information. Mu explained that they were disgusting creatures that liked to eat stones and had no value in plundering. However, their deep caves yielded valuable crystal minerals. But as soon as Li Zihe's knife plunged into the insect's corpse, his plunder talent instantly activated. A thin, pure breath of life was drawn from the insect's body and replenished into Li Zihe's body. Li Zihe's body cells absorbed this vitality, just like a riverbed that had been dry for a long time absorbed the bottle of mineral water, or the 200 milliliter kind. When all the insect corpses on the ground dried up, the hunger and thirst in Li Zihe's body not only did not stop, but it became even stronger. He felt that all the cells in his body had turned into a bunch of hungry mouths, begging him, the meal ticket manager, to quickly release the food. This is like a person whose lips are cracked due to thirst. After taking a sip of water, his lips become even more painful. Ah! Insects are really low-level life. Li Zihe, who had tasted the taste of the vampire count and was used to absorbing 666 with one knife, walked back to the cave helplessly. Thanks to the bug friend I am a wasted house for the 500 reward, thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 The Awakening Fragrance. Amidst a sea of silent white hills, a bottomless cave entrance loomed. A figure tiptoed to the dark cavern and tossed a stone into the air with all its might. Squeak, squeak, squeak. A swarm of insects, each with a single-digit IQ, scurried out, chasing the figure who hadn't yet gotten far. When they were within a short distance of the cave, the figure, who had been a bit panicky, turned and attacked. Their movements were graceful and elegant, their heavy swords wielding effortlessly as if they were strolling in the garden. Within a minute, dozens of insects had been stabbed in the neck, barely able to struggle, their vital energy just enough for Li Zihe to absorb. Even the smallest mosquito is still meat. Li Zihe had learned the truth of this old saying all too well. Over 2 days of trapping and plundering, Li Zihe had killed countless insects and sucked countless mosquitoes before his thirst was finally alleviated. Killing small monsters is out of experience. Li Zihe paused his killing spree for a brief rest. He opened the toolkit on the side of his mobile suit's thigh and took out tools to perform a minor modification. He had refitted the fragrant blade of the Ancestor knife to the left hand of the mobile suit, tightly connected to the palm to absorb blood and energy. This allowed Li Zihe to control the other dark blade and quietly attack people and insects. He refilled the suit's internal nutrition bag with yogurt and happy water to stay hydrated during long battles. Then, Li Zihe stretched his waist and resolutely walked into the dark cave. The cave was filled with numerous passages, and a firefly-like creature floated in the air, emitting a faint glow. After 2 days of acclimatization, Li Zihe no longer felt nauseous by the slime on the ground and the strange smell in the air. He could clearly distinguish the paths of insects and the density of their habitats. His mysterious danger perception was once again active, and Li Zihe felt like he had returned to his days as a trapper, able to accurately locate suitable hunting areas. The mobile suit's engines had shut down. Li Zihe relied solely on his torso to propel the hundreds-pound armor forward, like a silent ghost knight, slithering into one insect nest after another. His sharp heavy sword swung lightly, swiftly and precisely slicing through the insect's vital points without wasting a single moment of effort. A dozen insects took only 10 to 20 seconds, and dozens a minute or two. An insect nest was a class society, with the weaker and less intelligent insects clustered on the periphery. Li Zihe approached each nest, absorbing their vitality to heal his wounds. By the time Li Zihe had cleared the low-experienced monsters on the nest's periphery, the signs of his blood and ki depletion had greatly eased. But deep within his consciousness, a stronger hunger lingered. He wanted to devour all life around him, pursuing the deeper mysteries of plunder. Li Zihe began clearing the inner layers of the nest, finally encountering some significant resistance. Two elite hydralisks, twice their size, surrounded Li Zihe. Their upper bodies rose 3 or 4 meters high, and like venomous snakes, they lunged at him, biting him. They opened their head carapaces, unleashing dozens of bone spurs that blanketed Li Zihe. Li Zihe danced nimbly between the two insects, miraculously dodging the dense spurs in the narrow space. Stealthily, his dark blade knife stabbed into the enemy's vital points in the dark cave, numbing them to death without notice. As the two elite insects fell to the ground, they found they had lost even the ability to emit a warning hiss. Absorbing the vitality of the two elite insects, Li Zihe finally tasted the sweetness of slaughter and plunder. Oh! Concentration is the essence. Li Zihe pulled the dark fragrance short blade from the elite insects and, like a man who had finally satisfied his pleasure, let out a satisfying groan. So what would it feel like to plunder the queen? Shouldn't I be worthy of a blood clan count? Filled with a wonderful anticipation for the future, Li Zihe journeyed deeper into the wormhole. Things didn't go as Li Zihe had imagined. The inner layers of the wormhole held far more elite monsters than he'd anticipated. But Li Zihe grew increasingly excited. This wasn't just a wormhole. It was a goldmine brimming with vitality. With a deft touch of kite flying, any boss could be defeated. Unconsciously, the dried-up blood energy within Li Zihe's body replenished, and he finally regained the strength of a bloody baron. The Ancestor knife hummed joyfully, and a sense of enlightenment washed over Li Zihe. The long-forgotten forbidden weapon had fully awakened amidst the continuous slaughter. However, Li Zihe's killing spree finally alerted the beings deep within the wormhole. A silent shockwave surged up from the depths of the earth, piercing Li Zihe's mind like an invisible blade, shattering his consciousness. A psychic attack? There's a queen of insects, after all. Li Zihe wasn't surprised. He'd experienced numerous raids on insect nests in the killing secret realm, and the mental imprint was particularly vivid. But back then, he'd only passively felt the various techniques while lying down. This time, it was a true, active attack. This wasn't the first time Li Zihe had felt a psychic attack. Kelly, from the supervisory department was a psychic, but the Queen of Insects' psychic attacks were far more powerful. Li Zihe immediately activated his concealment talent, lowering his aura and disappearing, pretending to have been annihilated by the Queen of Insects' psychic attack. The Queen of Insects ceased her psychic attacks, but she was unaware that a more cunning ghost knight had now appeared within the cave. The dark blade silently flew through the cave, piercing the necks of elite hydralisks one after another. Its paralyzing effect, amplified several times after its awakening, rendered them unable to react. A faint thread of blood extended from the dark blade and connected to the fragrance blade in Li Ziyi's hand. Pure life force flowed through the air, easily absorbed and transformed by Li Ziyi. The awakened dark fragrance twin blades possessed the ability to plunder from afar. When a powerful hunter becomes cunning and insidious, their prey will panic and become self-defeating. Although Li Ziyi's slaughter made no sound, the inexplicable deaths of groups of elite hydralisks still caused panic in the powerful queen. A powerful mental shock enveloped the entire cave, continuously sweeping away the foreign invaders. Even the ordinary hydralisks could not withstand the torment, their heads exploding and dying. "Thank you so much." The queen's mental attack caused the elite hydralisks to tumble to the ground, which invisibly freed Li Ziyi from his restraints and accelerated his killing and plundering. The mental shockwaves only irritated Li Ziyi slightly. The queen's mental attacks were clearly straining her strength, gradually decreasing in range and intensity, until she had to stop and give up. Li Ziyi, in his relentless killing and plundering, finally condensed a droplet of pale golden life fluid. Without hesitation, he poured the life fluid into the plunder inscription. A newfound understanding of plundering washed over him, and his plundering speed skyrocketed. Previously, plundering an elite insect would have taken several seconds, but now, using the secret fragrance technique, plundering could be accomplished instantly. The queen's mental shockwaves echoed again, but this time, it wasn't an attack, but a plea for peace. Li Ziyi carefully sensed the stirring scent of admiration. Upon disgusting, dear readers, please give me a vote. Oh. Chapter 56. Let my sword tell you. Squeak, squeak, a shrill insect cry echoed through the cave as hundreds of elite stinging insects scrambled towards the deepest depths. Li Ziyi, regretting the situation, poured a newly condensed drop of life liquid into the kill inscription, preparing for the fierce battle ahead. 10 more minutes would have been enough to take down all those hundreds of elite monsters and plunder enough vital energy to condense another life drop. However, the Queen of Insects, apparently aware of Li Ziyi's erratic behavior, issued a mental command of assemble all, summoning all the elite insects deep underground. Li Ziyi stopped using his high talent and slowly made his way deeper into the cave. As expected, the Queen of Insects' mental power locked onto him, repeatedly probing him. Li Ziyi acted as if he didn't hear any of this, maintaining a composed demeanor, like a peerless master disrupting a small rural martial arts gym. He had to first intimidate the opponent with his presence. After walking for a few miles, the view suddenly opened up, revealing a vast, natural underground hall before Li Ziyi. The hall was at least several 100,000 square meters. Countless luminescent insects danced in the air, creating an eerie, pink glow. In the center of the hall, a group of fierce insect elites, along with 2 soaring dragons, gathered to guard a small stone platform. Crawling atop the platform, a large, pink insect crept. Its lower body consisted of a long, large belly, from which jutted 6 short limbs, connected by membrane-like wings. Its upper body resembled a humanoid with a ghostly face, its 4 limbs, 2 long and 2 short, all skin and bone, tipped with sharp, bony spikes. It's indeed a queen insect larva. As Li Ziyi approached, he noticed that the underground passage had only recently been excavated. Furthermore, the quantity and quality of the insects lurking outside were vastly different from those found in the killing secret realm. Judging by the size of the insect queen and its sparse elite guards, it was clear she was a recently separated, delicate, tender young woman, easily eaten. The insect queen's mental power rudely enveloped Li Ziyi, forcing a message through her. "Who are you?" Li Ziyi sensed the insect queen's bewilderment. It couldn't comprehend how a mere 2-meter-tall creature, a mobile suit, could have slain so many of its minions. Li Ziyi coldly replied, "I'm a hunter you've offended." The insect queen certainly didn't understand Li Ziyi's words, but when focused, her words, thoughts, and ideas converged, and she understood his meaning. The insect queen bristled slightly. "This is my territory, and you've offended me." Li Ziyi raised his heavy sword. "Let my sword tell you who has offended whom." The insect queen was a little dazed. She felt the enemy before her wasn't that formidable, and her 2 most elite dragon guards could easily tear it apart, not to mention that she could take action in this hall. but it had no idea how salivatingly Zhe felt at that moment. The moment Zhe laid eyes on the queen, his hunger surged to an uncontrollable pitch. All the inscriptions within him, like kill and plunder, vibrated violently. Even the art inscription excitedly expressed its desire to suck it dry. It was as if the queen before him wasn't a terrifying giant insect, but a plate of fragrant cream cake, waiting to be devoured. This wasn't Zhe's arrogance, but rather the fearless declaration of his uncontrollable bloodline. Squeak, squeak, hundreds of elite stinging insects sensed the queen's wrath, and their simple minds rushed towards Zhe in anger. Under the queen's spiritual guidance, the insects were able to split into two groups and surround Zhe. A flying dragon in the air also swooped down rapidly, a striking demonstration of a three-dimensional tactical operation. Zhe stretched out his arms, and the concealment rune within him completely extinguished, revealing a long river of blood before him. Zhe felt his power rapidly rising, soon surpassing its previous limit. Like a wild horse freed from its shackles, he galloped relentlessly across the grasslands. Squeak, 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 the blood-red river formed an invisible aura, the disparity in survival levels terrifying every living being in the underground hall. The surrounding insects were stunned, their movements gradually slowing, and they fell into panic and chaos. The insect queen on the central stone platform, frightened, began to suffer from diarrhea. One by one, insect eggs were released from her abdomen, and in an instant, they hatched into a dense swarm of springtails. Springtails are the lowest level troops in the insect nest, but they reproduce quickly and are quite effective in delaying the enemy. You want to run? Zhe tapped his foot lightly, and the mechanical armor left a shadow, rushing towards the insect queen on the stone platform, whose belly had been retracted and her wings began to flutter. Wail! 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 The queen let out a sharp, shuddering cry, startling the swarm of insects from their slumber. She opened her mouth and unleashed a puff of pink mist. The insects, inhaling the pink mist, leaped up like drug technicians, charging towards Zhe. Zhe swung his right arm, his heavy sword whirling through the air, slicing vertically through the dragon's wings, just as he had done countless times in the Killing Secret realm. The dragon's wings were its weakest point. While a horizontal cut would only cause the reinforced fascia to become stuck, a vertical cut would damage its vital nodes, causing the wings to detach. His dark blade flew across the sky, dispatching each elite insect that stood in his way with a single stab. His predatory talent, ignited by his bloodline, was truly formidable, instantly wiping out dozens of insects in his path. Zhe caught the swirling heavy sword and charged fearlessly into the pink mist. His mobile suit's respiratory filtration system had been upgraded to its highest level, and Zhe's blood and energy surged, repelling any foreign matter that came into contact with his skin. So, despite the corroded armor's outer shell making a sizzling sound, Zhe showed no signs of poisoning. Once he broke through the mist, he discovered the queen had already sprinted into a passage 100 meters away. A swarm of zerglings were happily swooping down, and the flying dragon in the air was actually shrinking, likely attempting to transform into a guardian with stronger defenses and long-range firepower. Zhe didn't bother with him, simply pulling out a Gatling gun behind him and opening fire. How could such a low-level creature like the zerglings withstand the large-caliber tungsten cord armor-piercing rounds? They were instantly reduced to a mess of slime and flesh. As for the guardian, which hadn't yet fully transformed, Zhe ignored it. Without its mobility, it was a mere blind shooter for Zhe's cunning agility. Just as the panicked queen insect was about to disappear around the bend in the passage, the stealthy dark blade gently stabbed her back. The dark blade's paralyzing properties took effect, leaving the massive queen insect completely unaware she had been caught by the vicious little creature. One insect and one person chased each other swiftly through the passage. Zhe deliberately slowed his pace, letting the panicked queen insect flee ahead. The faster she fled, the faster the dark blade absorbed her vitality. Holding the fragrant blade was like a kite flying lord. Always your lord. As time passed, the queen insect, rapidly weakening, let out a mournful whine, an invisible sound wave spreading far into the distance. Its intelligence was exceptional, having already sensed its predicament. However, the queen insect's limbs couldn't reach her back, and with so few other insects and offspring around her, she couldn't search for the tiny dark blade behind her. Finally, the queen insect collapsed to the ground, her massive body slowly shriveling, her pink skin turning sallow. Li stood 30 meters away, quietly absorbing its life force, awaiting its death. "You'll pay the price," the Queen's consciousness transmitted, weak but filled with immense resentment and hatred. "I'll wait." Li felt the pale golden life force rapidly condensing within him, his lips curling slightly, like a gambler watching a group of fat sheep foolishly sit at the poker table. Buzz! A powerful spiritual consciousness surged from afar, connecting with the Queen on the ground. Li's heart trembled, and he leaped onto the Queen's belly, piercing his fragrant blades into her body. The two short blades rapidly absorbed and plundered, quickly draining the Queen dry. Li turned and fled, the concealment inscription within his body reappearing, erasing all traces of her presence. Even so, Li ran for an hour, his scalp tingling, before escaping. This Queen was different from the last. This one was clearly an old one, with a tough, thick skin and flesh. Not tasty. PFFT. Chapter 57, Establishing Authority. 1, 2, 3, 10, 11. Li felt he had never been so wealthy before, possessing 11 drops of pale golden life liquid. The surface of this grayish-white planet appeared dead and silent, but who could have imagined that beneath this vast grayish-white world lay such a rich and vibrant life? Even those seemingly disgusting swarms of insects could condense pure life liquid. A newly independent young queen worm possessed the vitality and blood of 4 wealthy vampire counts. What about those grown, old witches? Li had originally believed that the scenes he had experienced in the Killing Secret Realm were the work of some unknown ancestor, fighting for justice against evil. But now it seemed that this might not be a brutal plundering to enhance his own power. Justice is the self-introduction written by the victor. Li was not at all pretentious. He was ready to become a messenger of justice, to rescue the countless lost lambs and insects on this planet, and to send them peacefully to paradise where they could enjoy a life without hunger, oppression, or pain. But before that, Li needed to find a safe place to sleep. After distributing 11 drops of life fluid to 5 inscriptions, his body felt extremely exhausted, and the bloodline inscription clearly conveyed to him the advice to sleep. Leveraging his powerful danger perception, Li found a sheltered valley, dug a deep pit, and fashioned a small rectangular box from several metal plates, a perfect size for lying down. Then, Li set up his mobile suit's external breathing tube and, controlling his dark blade knife remotely, buried himself. A world of darkness descended, countless lights and shadows flashed through Li's dreams, and mysterious whispers whispered in his ears. Deep within his body, hidden secrets, guided by the soul's call, transformed, brewing the mysteries of life, guiding the ancient, dormant power to slowly awaken. The bloody Viscount. In his sleep, Li sensed a glimmer of consciousness, and a smile curved his lips. The Twilight Continent is not a continent, but a super-large planet located in the Dark Night Galaxy. Because it has a thick atmosphere and is far away from the star, the sky is always the color of dusk, so it is named Twilight Continent. The force field at the interstellar jump point closest to the Twilight Continent changed, and then a small interstellar fleet emerged. It was the Red Castle family that moved from the distant chaotic galaxy. But at this time, this small fleet looked a little embarrassed. The southern forest that Mu was riding on was okay, with only a few minor scars, but the other starships were all injured. Especially the light star destroyer Red Castle, which had a big hole in its hull. It used a quick repair kit to make an ugly patch and barely survived the last interstellar jump. In the cockpit of the southern forest, Mu stood in front of the technical officer with a sullen face, and the words he said were incomparably cold. "Still no contact with the Red Rock City. I'm sorry, sir, but there's still no news. The Red Rock City was lost during our first jump, and we don't know which star system it's in. I can only request sector-wide emergency communications from the Council, but it hasn't been approved yet. Keep applying." Mu didn't embarrass the technical officer, knowing such a request would be nearly impossible to prove. The Blood Clan had established relay signal stations in space throughout major star systems, many of which were hidden in sensitive star systems between the Federation and the Earth. When Blood Clan starships passed through these star systems and needed to communicate, they would first establish a coded link with the signal stations. Once these stations knew the ship's exact location, they would transmit a targeted, encrypted signal. However, sector-wide emergency communications would require a three-dimensional, omnidirectional, high-powered transmission, which would undoubtedly be impossible to detect from the Federation. The Red Council couldn't afford to expose the hidden locations of thousands of signal stations for the sake of a single light star destroyer. The small fleet entered the interstellar spaceport above the Twilight continent, contacted air traffic control on the surface, and awaited the assigned route to descend through the atmosphere. This is the Blood Clan's home base, and unlike places like the Chaos Starfield, armed starships can't freely take off and land. I apologize, Your Excellency Milton, but I have to meet with a family elder now, so I won't be escorting you back to the council in person. I'll visit you another day. The battered fleet landed in the northern forests of the Twilight continent. Mu didn't invite Vice Speaker Duke Milton, who had accompanied the fleet, to disembark, but politely asked him to leave. You're welcome. I'll look forward to meeting you again. The southern forest lifted off again, escorting Vice Speaker Milton back to the Blood Clan's central city. Aboard the starship, Vice Speaker Milton pondered for a moment before issuing an order to his entourage. Dispatch the Council's direct search fleet to immediately and secretly search for the missing Red Rock City. I also require detailed information on everyone aboard the Red Rock City. Mu boarded the carriage and followed the quiet path deep into the forest. In the distance, a cluster of dark red buildings loomed faintly. Blood Dusk City, a seemingly unassuming little city, was a formidable presence on the Twilight continent, and indeed anywhere else intelligent humans ventured. Entering the city, Mu gazed upon the ancient castles nestled in the greenery, looking as if they had remained unchanged, as they had been 30 years prior. The carriage followed the cobblestone path between the castles. A group of people stood silently at each castle gate, bowing in respect as the carriage passed. In one corner of the complex stood a red castle, clearly newly renovated. The Red Castle, a direct descendant of the Blooddusk family, had weathered many ups and downs over a millennium, now enjoying a new moment of glory. Standing on the steps in front of the castle was a large group of well-dressed vampires. Leading the group was an elderly man with a head full of white hair, but he stood straight, his red tuxedo making him look particularly energetic. On the chest of his tuxedo was a golden blood curtain family crest. This betokened the presence of a powerful vampire duke. Mu exited the car and bowed his head in greeting. Uncle Byrne, long time no see. Are you all right? The white-haired elder named Byrne nodded and smiled. Seeing Mu's grim expression, he soothed him. Don't harbor resentment. 30 years is but a fleeting moment for us vampires. Mu nodded and said coldly. I naturally should harbor resentment for what happened 30 years ago, but how should we settle the grudges of today? Byrne was surprised. What grudges today are you referring to? On my way back to the Twilight continent, I was ambushed by the Federation's main fleet. The detailed itinerary of this journey is top secret. How did the Federation find us in the vastness of space? I believe there are certain individuals who don't want our Red Castle family to return to the Blood Twilight City. Byrne's expression darkened. I already know about your ambush, but I don't know the specific circumstances. Who are these people you're referring to? Mu turned his head slightly and looked at Earl Hughes. Duke Byrne immediately demanded, Is that you, Hughes? Marcus Hughes angrily replied, How could it be me? My cold moon was nearly destroyed. Count Finn chimed in, Your Excellency, Duke Byrne, the Federation's main fleet often patrols and hunts near the jump point. We were a safe distance away from the Federation fleet at the time. If we had accelerated our departure, we wouldn't have encountered them, Marcus Hughes continued, but Earl Muayu insisted on returning to search for a lost light starship. That's when the Federation launched a gravity bomb, disrupting the jump point's force field and trapping us, nearly leading to our utter destruction. The rambling exchange between Marcus Hughes and his nephew clarified the situation. It was the newly appointed Earl Muayu who, disregarding everyone's safety and preoccupied with his own personal possessions, nearly led to their destruction at the hands of the Federation fleet. Muayu fixed Finn with a stern gaze and was about to rebuke him when Ethan suddenly moved beside him. Everyone saw Ethan's figure flash by and he was already in front of Finn, pinching his neck with sharp fingers, and his sharp fangs bared his lips. Don't think I don't know what you are planning. You wanted us to abandon the low-speed Red Castle and leave all the people who have been with us on the Crimson Star for all these years to the Federation people. Everyone around was stunned. You know, Finn is not a straw count who has been promoted due to age. He was also a future star. What happened now? He was defeated by Ethan, a kid who just came of age? Could it be that the Red Castle family is really the chosen bloodline, and is there going to be another genius? The eyes of many vampires turned to the Muayu siblings, and they became hot. What are you doing? Marcus Hughes turned to Muayu and angrily declared, Even if I was in charge of the fleet's route this time, even if I bear responsibility, the missing Red Rock City was just a bunch of lowly humans. At most, I can choose the best servants from among my vassals to compensate you. The Red Castle's elite troops were either aboard the Southern Forest or the Red Castle. The Red Rock City carried most of the equipment and the technical personnel awaiting transformation into vampires, so Marcus Hughes believed the Red Castle's losses were minimal. But Mu coldly declared, "You'd better hope nothing happens to the other Red Rock City, or I will exterminate your Moon Castle clan." Everyone around was stunned. They all understood Mu's intentions. This was an ambush, and Marcus Hughes was destined to take the blame. It would have to be you. Everyone thought Mu was making a big deal out of nothing. Using the momentum of his return to the Twilight Continent to assert his authority and intimidate those who witnessed the events of 30 years ago. But they had no idea that on that Red Rock City, there was the father of the siblings. All the wealth of the Red Castle family combined was not even a fraction of the father. Thanks to the Buck Frenzy IE for the reward. Thank you, Big Brother, thank you. Chapter 58 Punishment. Even a clay figure has its temper. Marcus Hughes was a proud Marcus, a prominent figure in Blooddusk City. How could he tolerate the blatant threats of the newly appointed Earl, Mu, in front of a crowd of vampires? It seems my tolerance has led to your misunderstanding. You just returned to the clan today. Are you trying to use me to gain authority? Earl Hughes's fury faded, but his aura surged. The intense bloodline suppression made the less powerful vampires around him dizzy. But Mu was even more resolute. Do you think no one knows what you've been doing on Crimson Star these days? You used despicable means to hold 3 stewards and 2 barons hostage from my Red Keep. And that day during the ambush, you even wanted to abandon the Red Keep. Who's behind this? Boom. A powerful shockwave, centered on Mu, exploded in all directions, scattering the surrounding vampires. A vibrant river of blood enveloped the entire Blooddusk City. Within the river, the star belonging to Mu continued to grow in brightness, eclipsing all the other stars. Marcus Hughes suddenly felt something grip his heart, and a salty taste lingered in his mouth and nose. Everyone, get out of here. Get out, Duke Boren shouted at the stunned vampires to leave, his form shifting like a 1,000-armed Guanyin, snatching up the twitching vampires one by one and throwing them into the distance. He now believed that Mu was using Marcus Hughes to establish his authority and make an example of him. But he also believed that Mu had reason to be arrogant. The bloodline power he displayed was simply too formidable, rivaling that of Marcus Hughes. But how old was Mu? How old was Hughes? Could they even compare? But then, Duke Boren realized he had underestimated Mu. As the blood-red river enveloped her, a subtle force within Twilight City resonated with her, gently undoing a loose shackle. A condensed blood energy surged into the heavens, proclaiming to the entire Twilight Continent. Mu had ascended to the rank of Marcus. On the Crimson Star, she had suppressed her bloodline, limiting her rank to that of Earl, waiting for this moment. Mu's bloodline, fused with the blood-red river of her family, erupted in a declaration of strength to the entire world. The Red Castle family, a millennium-old family, had returned. Those short-sighted villains of 30 years ago, those fools who now tried to obstruct her return to the family, trembled under the might of the great Lord Mu. Puff. Marcus Hughes, who had seemed evenly matched moments before, collapsed to the ground, crimson blood oozing from his mouth and nose. Now he deeply regretted being deceived by certain people before heading to Crimson Star, blinded by a sliver of profit, and thus angering this sudden evil star. Stop, a weary call echoed from the southeast corner of Blooddusk City, its lingering echoes echoing through the city. When the voice died down, a gray-haired vampire appeared at the steps of the Red Castle. His hair was gray, but his face was more wrinkled than Duke Boren's. He exuded a strong blood aura, clearly a dormant vampire who had just awakened from the blood pool. Youngster, don't take this to the extreme. The gray-haired vampire's face was pale and sinister. He grabbed Hughes and was about to leave. But a hazy mist suddenly enveloped the area for hundreds of meters. When Mu was an Earl, she had comprehended the true meaning of her true name with the help of Lineage. Now, having broken through to the rank of Marcus, she was even more powerful and domineering than before. She said coldly, Duke Heezen, I've been waiting for you. You seem to know something about my parents' deaths 30 years ago? The sinister Duke Heezen sensed the surrounding fog and found himself completely obscured. He muttered in confusion, incredible. Can the Red Castle bloodline awaken the secrets of the true name? Why would the ancestral favor be bestowed upon the daughter of Larsent? Hearing the name Larsent, Muyu's rage surged. Although she now had a new father, the father who had accompanied and mentored her throughout her childhood remained a figure she would never forget. You actually despise the Red Castle bloodline? Then let's see whose bloodline is more noble. The mist suddenly began to vibrate, tinged with a faint blood-red hue. This small area resonated with a blood-red river. The intense blood pressure pressed upon Duke Heizan, leaving him, having just emerged from the blood pool, feeling a deep, powerless fear. He was already very old, having already spent a long time dormant in the blood pool to sustain his life. Now, suddenly under unprecedented blood pressure, his blood supply was actually showing signs of collapse. Lord Muayu, I do know some things about your parents, but I think you should ask the clan leader. Duke Heizan's palm began to tremble as he prepared to strike a fierce blow. He wasn't sure if Muayu would die after his blow, but he knew that if he struck, he would die. Muayu's anger gradually calmed, and the murderous mist quietly dissipated. In the distance, Duke Bjorn breathed a sigh of relief. A direct confrontation between Muayu and Heizan today would be a grave loss to the Blood Mu clan, no matter the outcome. He stepped forward and briefly recounted to Duke Heizan the ambush on Muayu. Heizan, I believe that you, Moon Castle, are responsible and need to make amends. Between the young, promising Muayu and the soon-to-be slept Heizan, Bjorn couldn't help but favor him. Yes, Heizan looked at Muayu. What kind of compensation do you want? Muayu silently glanced at the center of Blood Dusk City. Beneath the tallest spire of the castle towered a presence feared by all vampires. She had caused such a commotion, yet he hadn't reacted in the slightest. A few minutes later, in the Red Castle's secret chamber, Muayu coldly addressed Duke Heizan, immediately mobilize all starships to search for the Red Rock City. Also, Muayu extended a snow-white finger, and a ball of crimson, emanating from her heart, dripped from her fingertips. This is my punishment for Moon Castle. You can choose not to accept it. The bright red source blood hung in the air, faint golden threads lingering on its surface. The violent and chaotic aura resonated with Duke Heizan's heartbeat. After becoming a Marquise, Muayu could easily condense her primordial blood. However, because her bloodline's power was still surging, the condensed primordial blood was unstable, like a drop of poison imbued with magical power, at once alluring and deadly. Duke Heizan was stunned. Was Muayu planning to correct her bloodline and gain control of the entire Moon Castle? Reject? Accept? Duke Heizan pondered for a few seconds before suddenly reaching out and grasping the suspended drop of primordial blood. Like a small animal with sharp teeth, the primordial blood tore through Duke Heizan's skin and entered his body. Duke Heizan trembled, enduring the pain of the bloodline correction, awaiting the verdict of life or death. After a long time, Duke Heizan's gray hair turned black, and his wrinkled face smoothed out. He transformed from a frail old man into a straight-backed middle-aged man. He silently knelt on his knees, arms in front of him, forehead touching the ground. Dear mother, please accept Heizan's respect. I am willing to defend your will with my life. Muayu calmly accepted Duke Heizan's kneeling ceremony and said calmly, don't use your vitality on your appearance. Do you want everyone to know that you have accepted my punishment? Heizan was stunned for a moment and understood. The black hair turned gray again, and the elastic face was full of wrinkles again. But there was a part of his body that he would never change back no matter how hard he tried. Thanks to the bug friend at for the reward, thank you. Chapter 59, The Mage in the Technological Age. Boom. 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 Li Zihe was awakened by a series of intense tremors, feeling as if a massive army were crushing his head. However, Li Zihe had buried himself quite deep, and the metal plates from Teobeo were decent quality, so the small box he'd been hiding in wasn't crushed. He opened his eyes, lost in thought for a moment, then pulled out his phone to check the time. He realized he'd only slept for a dozen hours, and his morning grumpiness immediately erupted. Disturbing someone's sleep is a crime. Sleeping in, a free, socially stable indulgence, should be respected by all. Li Zihe curled up, legs bent, and with a single swift kick, he sent the top of the small box, along with dozens of cubic meters of earth, flying off, like a dormant boss suddenly resurrected. Climbing out of the pit, he saw puddles of slime on the surrounding ground. Evidently a large swarm of insects had just passed through. This shouldn't be the path for insects. Before digging the pit to bury himself, Li Zihe had used his hazard perception to determine the area was extremely low risk. He couldn't understand why a large swarm of insects would be passing through now. But now, In Li Ziqi's eyes, those disgusting bugs were nothing but gleaming experience points. Even if they didn't bother him, he would still go looking for them. Li Ziqi followed a trail of tracks on the ground. As he ran, he felt the changes in his body after his ascension to the blood viscount. His blood and energy were brimming with energy, and his every move was infinitely more agile than before, capable of unleashing explosive force at the drop of a hat. Yet, the hunger within Li Ziqi persisted, the changes in his body lingering. The inscriptions kill and plunder still conveyed a fierce desire for gain. Plunder and greed have always been twins, the easiest path from weakness to strength. Just like the old empires on Langsing, which one wasn't greedy, which one didn't rise to power through plunder? But before Li Ziqi could catch up with the insect swarm, he stopped abruptly. He saw several space escape craft, belonging to the Red Rock City, wrecked in the wasteland. Li Ziqi had a good memory. Based on the codes, he determined that these were the lifeboats used by non-combatants and non-vampires before the Red Rock City exploded. The lifeboats appeared to have landed safely, though no one was nearby. Li Ziqi opened his mobile suit's visor and sniffed the air. His olfactory nerves immediately picked up certain scent clues, guiding him forward. Upon reaching a cliff face, Li Ziqi found traces of the escapees. 5 bodies, black as charcoal, had been nailed to the steep cliff face, forming a cross. Their bodies had been incinerated, so black that even insects wouldn't eat them. Burning at the stake, a genetic memory awakened in Li Ziqi's mind. His face turned as cold as 1,000 years of ice, but his heart burned like the boiling magma of hell. Back in Red Rock City, he had never considered these lower-ranking members of the Red Castle family his own. He had always felt alienated from this world. His heart of a saint had long been shattered to dust during his time as a trapper. But now, witnessing this brutal extermination of humanity, a hidden element coursing through his veins was revealed. Li Ziqi opened the Fortune Bird Inn, took out an engineering shovel, dug 5 graves, and brought the bodies down from the cliffs for burial. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes, may your souls soon find peace. Li Ziqi subconsciously recited Lansing's eulogy before turning and walking off into the distance. He ran faster and faster, as if the hellfire in his chest would burst forth if he slowed even a little. Li Ziqi quietly climbed to the top of the mountain and saw tens of thousands of insects in the valley below. They quietly filled the valley, like disciplined soldiers, tightly encircling the wreckage of the starship in its center. It was none other than the half of the temple's Muguang-class flagship starship. The starship had lost its entire bow, and only one of its 3 masts remained. Judging by the way half of its hull had sunk into the earth, it had clearly been forced down from space. However, the ship's broad sails were unfurled, facing the sun, likely absorbing the star's energy, presumably retaining some defensive capabilities. Squeak, squeak, a hateful chirp echoed through the valley, and the momentarily quiet valley suddenly erupted in a turmoil. A frenzied swarm of insects, like a tide caught in a hurricane, swept towards the wreckage of the starship. Da-da-da hiss hiss hiss, hundreds of flames appeared on the wreckage's deck, and a barrage of bullets ripped through the insect swarm, instantly carving trails through it. But Li Ziqi was puzzled. He had clearly sensed that some of the starship's secondary guns had begun to focus their energy. A single swipe and aim would suffice to annihilate a large swarm. But in the end, it was a swarm of human warriors who surged onto the deck, using their individual weapons to fend off the insect tide. Li Ziqi activated his mobile suit's full-spectrum telescope and took in the human warriors on the deck. They were clearly divided into 2 groups. One group wore the temple's distinctive copper-yellow mobile suits and wielded large-caliber hand cannons or Gatling guns. The other wore simple interstellar protective suits and respirators, armed with less powerful light weapons. Li Ziqi recognized them. They were all survivors from the Red Rock City. They were still alive. As long as they're alive, Li Ziqi had originally intended to find these survivors and rely on them for further escape plans. After all, he had no idea of the various self-rescue methods available after an interstellar crash. He didn't even know which star system he was in. Even with a communication kit, he wouldn't know how to clearly indicate his location. Furthermore, he had no idea if there were any other human or vampire forces on this insect planet. He had only been in this world for so long that he didn't understand much. But now that he had discovered the temple's men, he had to remain calm. The mantis stalks the cicada, while the oriole waits behind. There would be a time to settle accounts with him. Li Ziyi adjusted his mindset, found a secluded spot, and settled into a comfortable position. He sipped on some genuine Tilansu while enjoying a real-time 3D sci-fi blockbuster. It was undeniable that the temple's mobile suits were highly skilled marksmen. They could accurately identify the elite insects in the swarm, prioritizing them for elimination, leaving the remaining survivors to deal with the thinner armored springtails, stingers, and the like. The insects continued to attack, but the attack continued unabated. When the vanguard of the swarm closed within 200 meters, the hydralisks, with their long-range attack capabilities, finally began to unleash their bone spikes. A barrage of bone spikes rained down on the wreckage of the starship, but were blocked by a gently rippling energy shield. Li Ziyi recalled the day of the ambush, when the Galleon starship had used this same energy shield to deflect the Red Rock City's attacks. Woo-woo! Suddenly, several small hills rose from the swarm, and several mammoths with massive bony horns emerged. They have huge bodies, hard skeletons and skin, and they move very fast. They rushed forward by stepping on the insects in front of them. The secondary guns on the wreckage of the starship finally moved, aiming at several mammoths. But Li Ziyi's attention was attracted by a person who walked out of the starship at some unknown time. It was a human in a white robe, with long straight black hair, and a white veil covering her face. Li Ziyi sensed danger from her. She floated up and rose to the top of the sail, then gently waved the cane in her hand. A ray of light like a meteor broke through the energy shield of the starship wreckage and reached the insect swarm. Oh my gosh, a mage. Chapter 60. Let me level up first. A mage? Li Ziyi almost cried out, but then a genetic memory awakened, revealing the white-robed woman to be a temple novice. Judging by the red cross star symbolized on her white robe, she was a distinguished, direct descendant. Direct descendants were devout monks born in the temple city, a star-like city on the divine planet, and trained in various theological teachings. Within the theocratic organization, they naturally held a prestigious leadership position. As the direct descendant swung her staff, a shower of meteor-like light descended upon the insect swarm, though it inflicted no significant damage. Suddenly, two energy cannons on the wreckage of the starship opened fire. Boom! Boom! The energy cannons fired quietly, yet their power was immense. They accurately struck several mammoths, shattering the tank-like beasts into smithereens. The frenzied insect swarm panicked, some charging with ferocity, while others, terrified, turned and fled. Tens of thousands of insects trampled one another, causing widespread chaos in the valley. However, due to the insects' limited intelligence, they failed to notice. As the two energy cannons opened fire, a modified space torpedo quietly launched into the air, heading for the spot where the meteor had landed. So she just marked the insect swarm, huh? Li Ziyi focused his attention on the landing spot, surprised to sense a faint energy fluctuation. A powerful mental wave emanated from the valley's depths, instantly controlling the chaotic insect swarm. But at that very moment, the space torpedo, tracing a parabola, plummeted downwards, suddenly igniting its booster engines. It accelerated with a roar, slamming into the ground. Hiss! A terrifying hissing shockwave echoed up from the ground, causing Li Ziyi's ears to hurtle momentarily. All the insects in the valley suddenly stopped for a moment, then swarmed frantically towards the hole created by the space torpedo. From the torpedo burrowing into the ground to the insects going berserk, everything happened in a split second. Then, a violent underground explosion erupted, a visible ripple of impact spreading across the valley. A ball of flames burst through the surface, erupting into a mushroom cloud thousands of meters high. But the frantic insects continued to rush into the flames, tumbling and scrambling downwards from the open holes. Squeak! A faint whine filled the valley, and the powerful spiritual pressure gradually weakened until it vanished completely. Li Ziyi knew that another insect queen had fallen. Judging from this queen's spiritual strength, she was even more powerful than the young queen he had plundered yesterday. Then, a large number of insects in the valley suddenly lost consciousness, falling to the ground in a peaceful and motionless state. It was like a swarm of drones performing a performance, suddenly losing power, and falling from the sky with a crackling sound, shattering with a loud bang. What a barbaric, dictatorial, and competitive social system. Li Ziyi couldn't help but feel a sense of fear for these seemingly primitive insects. These insects possess simple minds, powerful limbs, and are fierce and tenacious. However, the queen who controls them possesses an intelligence comparable to that of humans. The queen possesses exceptional vitality, capable of flight, running, and even burrowing. With her single body, she connects the lives of tens of thousands of her subjects, uniting the fate of an entire colony entirely to her. If she dies, so do the others. This mysterious and powerful mental ability ensures the unwavering loyalty of all the insects. This authoritarianism is brutal and inhumane, but it can concentrate the entire colony's power into a single point. The insect's survival strategies are also deeply aggressive, and a face-to-face encounter with them would be truly terrifying. Victory! Hooray for victory! The collective death of the insects unleashed a wave of jubilant cheers from the humans aboard the wreckage of the starship. Of course, these were only the survivors of Red Rock City. Meanwhile, the temple warriors, clad in bronze-yellow mobile armor, knelt on one knee, their right hands resting on their hearts in sincere prayer. Praise the gods, victory will be ours. Great gods, thank you for granting us strength. Li Zihe watched from afar, feeling an inexplicable sense of familiarity. After the battle, the personnel aboard the wreckage divided their duties once again. The temple's mobile suits went inside to rest. Those who escaped from the Red Rock City had some of their weapons confiscated and were given the honorable task of cleaning up the battlefield. Armed with special tools, they selected the most elite insects on the battlefield, removing their teeth, extracting their fluids, and hacking off their bones and horns. Working in a valley littered with insect corpses, many could not help but slip and vomit, but they dared not slack off, diligently completing their assigned tasks. Clearly, these escapees had been forced into slavery within the temple, forced to fight and enslave for their own survival. Li Zihe glanced at the secondary guns on the wreckage of the starship and the unfathomable direct descendant monk. He temporarily gave up the idea of forcing his way through and quietly left the valley. In the face of technological might, personal prowess was insignificant, and head-on confrontation was foolish. Of course, possessing a realm of strength that could disregard technology was a different matter. Wait a moment, let me level up first. Not long after Li Zihe left the valley, he felt a strong tremor in the distant earth. And the tremors came from two directions, converging towards him. Did I stir up a hornet's nest? In fact, when the space torpedo exploded underground and the dying Zerg Queen let out a mournful wail, Li Zihe, who had experienced many Zerg subjugation campaigns in the Killing Secret Realm, suspected that trouble was coming for the temple's men. Each Zerg Queen maintains her own territory, often clashing with one another. However, if an invading species emerges, their resolve to unite against it becomes resolute. The wreckage of the temple starship lay glaringly visible, and the use of a noisy space torpedo to kill a powerful Zerg Queen would inevitably lead to endless Zerg retaliation. If the starship's engines were intact and powered, it would undoubtedly be unafraid of the Zerg, relying solely on its secondary guns for a brutal slaughter. However, if its power was insufficient, the situation would be extremely difficult, potentially leading to a situation where too many ants could overwhelm the elephant. Li Zihe avoided the Zerg's attack and watched as two groups, clearly belonging to different nests, merged and rushed towards the valley where the temple starship had made its forced landing. He suddenly noticed something. During the merging process, many were crushed to pulp by the crowding and trampling, yet no conflict ensued. In other words, their sole focus was on advancing towards the valley, oblivious to everything else. Li Zihe suddenly had an idea, and the concealment inscription within him activated perfectly. Then he advanced towards the insect horde. A strange scene unfolded. Li Zihe, a humanoid creature completely unlike insects, had blended into the swarm without provoking any reaction from the insects. His concealment inscription had absorbed 2 drops of life liquid before it fell dormant, greatly enhancing its ability to conceal auras, though he had no idea to what extent. So far, the effect seemed surprising. The secret fragrance knife had already begun to hum, eagerly and thirstily. Chapter 61 Chen Tong. Elite Zergs would periodically fall amidst the surging Zerg hordes, only to be crushed to dust by their comrades behind them. This was unnoticeable amidst the jostling and scrambling of the 2 Zerg hordes. With their meager intelligence, the Zergs were unaware of the faint, subtle presence of the knife, skimming through the swarm with a swift devastation. With Li Zihe's ascension to the rank of Scarlet Viscount, his predatory abilities intensified, becoming even more ruthless. A single swipe of his dark blade could drain the essence of even the most elite Hydralisks. However, the deaths of numerous elite Hydralisks disrupted the Zerg's march. Without their leader to guide them, the ordinary Hydralisks scrambled about in a chaotic manner, often carelessly colliding with the mighty mammoths. The mammoths, enraged, swung their powerful jaws and bony horns with impulsive movements, toppling scores of Zerg horns. But moments later, the mighty mammoth became weak and shaky, staggering like a drunken daze. Li Zihe immediately controlled his dark blade to change targets. Shedding wool required skill, he only needed to half-kill it. Otherwise, he'd attract the queen's attention and his fun would be over. As darkness fell, the insect army arrived on the battlefield, filling not only the previously occupied valley but also the surrounding hills and mountain tops. Li Zihe increased his plundering pace. The mammoths lay sprawled on the ground, barely breathing their last. Meanwhile, 3 drops of pale golden life fluid had accumulated within Li Zihe. He felt a sense of resignation. He had ascended from Scarlet Knight to Scarlet Baron using only 1 life fluid from Wilf. From Scarlet Baron to Scarlet Viscount, he'd used 14. With the road ahead still arduous, how much longer would it be? 3 or 5 drops wouldn't help. Fortune and wealth are sought through risk, so Li Zihe decided to take a chance. The hide inscription continued to tremble, his presence completely lost in the night. Even surrounded by insects, no one could detect the ghostly presence of a different kind among the swarm. Squeak, squeak, another elite Zerg signaled an attack. Li Zihe, who happened to be nearby, accurately detected its presence. It was a rather unassuming hopper. He immediately determined that the hopper was the queen's remote clone, using it to direct the attack. Have they learned their lesson? During the last Zerg siege of the starship wreckage, the queen had appeared on the battlefield at critical moments, but now she was using a clone. Needless to say, her true form was far away. Li Zihe suspected they possessed the ability to learn from their mistakes. But that wasn't Li Zihe's concern right now. He was blending in with the Zerg attack, taking advantage of the chaos to plunder. Li Zihe reasoned that as long as the temple starship wreckage didn't fire, he could rob the battlefield, killing the rich and helping the poor. Cutting off the source of the trouble. At that moment, the wreckage was also a scene of chaos. The captain, who had lost an arm, was frantically directing the battle. Technical officer, analyze the insect danger level. Once the upper limit is reached, fire immediately, regardless of energy consumption. Issue large caliber armor-piercing weapons to the captives and push them to the outermost perimeter of the defense. Torpedo troops, prepare. Once you receive target designation, launch the space torpedoes. The one-armed captain issued a series of combat orders, then turned and walked into a quiet room within the starship. Lord Chentong, I once again strongly advise you to leave this place immediately. The white-robed, ordained monk raised his head, his veiled face revealing only a pair of beautiful eyes. They were as deep and dark as the starry sky, yet sparkled with a twinkle of stars. If I leave, you will all die. Lord Chentong's voice was as cool and sweet as a mountain spring, cold and devoid of emotion. The one-armed captain couldn't help but say, but if you don't leave now, you might not be able to. We can die, but you can't. But if I leave, I won't necessarily survive. Go and fulfill your duties. I'll have Thor and Quinn escort you. The one-armed captain wanted to argue, but Chentong only glanced at him, and he lowered his head, never daring to look directly at her again, as if any more glances would be blasphemy against this master Chentong. Chentong stood up and walked out silently. Her white monk robes and hazy white veil seemed like an invisible bondage, shrouding her in an extremely cold aura, untainted by the traces of worldly affairs. Li Zihe took advantage of the chaos and killed another flying dragon. The unfortunate creature was hit by only a few large-caliber armor-piercing rounds, and its wings inexplicably broke and fell to the ground, then died in seconds. Before dying, it couldn't understand why it felt so weak today. Suddenly, Li Zihe saw the magician levitate again. With a flick of his staff, a beam of light descended upon the well-hidden hopper. Dang, 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 countless kinetic projectiles crisscrossed, instantly shredding the hopper and all the surrounding insects. The surging swarm of insects trembled, as if the scene of the queen's recent death was about to replay itself. A sharp insect chirp echoed through the valley, and another hopper took command of the battlefield. The queen, hidden somewhere, chose a new long-range clone. Li Zihe immediately retreated, putting distance between them. The queen could switch clones at will, but he didn't want to experience the intense barrage of armor-piercing rounds. Chentong once again zeroed in on the target, and the hopper that had just become the queen's clone was, as expected, shattered to pieces. Squeak, ding-ding-ding, squeak, ding-ding-ding. Floating in the air, Chentong marked dozens of the queen's clones. The temple's mobile suits accurately dispatched their targets, but this didn't hinder the Zerg's advance. Instead, it fueled their fury. Guessing something, Chen Tong landed on the wrecked starship's deck, frowning as he scanned the dark valley before him. The one-armed captain approached, advising, "Master Chen Tong, please rest a bit. As long as the queen doesn't reveal herself, we can hold our ground. No matter how many Zergs there are, we're not afraid." Chen Tong suddenly asked, "Have you noticed that the Zerg are weaker today?" "Weaker?" "No." The temple warriors commanding the battle exchanged bewildered glances. Today's Zerg horde was several times greater than yesterday's, their attack so fierce that the Zerg carcasses were practically piling up against the starship's deck. How could they be weaker than before? Could it be that the warriors' performance today was so good that even the Great Descent monks misjudged them? Chen Tong pondered for a moment, then said with certainty, "Today's Zerg are lacking elite units." The technical officer immediately used a portable camera to bring up a holographically enhanced image of the battlefield outside. Although it was pitch dark, energy detection signals indicated a low ratio of elite units on the battlefield, and the numbers of assault troops like mammoths and dragons were also off. "Master Chen Tong, according to the signal statistics, we've eliminated 3,200 elite hydralisks, 11 mammoths, and 26 dragons." As he spoke, the technical officer began to feel a little uneasy. He wondered if his soldiers' marksmanship was a little too accurate today, taking out an elite unit with just a few rounds. The problem was, this wasn't just an isolated incident, but a common occurrence. Chen Tong frowned, unable to understand what was going on. She had no experience fighting Zerg and was simply following her instincts. Hiss! A powerful mental wave suddenly echoed from afar, sweeping across the battlefield like a tide. Several ordinary soldiers on the wreckage of the starship collapsed, twitching and writhing in their hands. The Queen of Worms appeared again. "Secondary guns ready, space torpedoes ready, bastards. Get up quickly." The one-armed captain endured the nausea and dizziness, kicking and beating the temple warriors who were disturbed by the mental shock. Everyone ignored their own pain and looked at Chen Tong instead, waiting for her to give target guidance. As long as the position of the Queen of Worms is determined, a space torpedo can kill it. But Chen Tong's face was solemn, and the previous guess came true. This time, she could not sense the position of the Queen of Worms. Yesterday's PK did not advance directly, but entered the resurrection match, and Lao Feng was also very depressed. Can everyone vote for it? Support it, Cap. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Mental Image. Li Zhe's hide inscription trembled slightly, deceiving the mental wave sweeping through the valley. He was very familiar with this mental wave. It was the same thick-skinned old man who had pursued him for an hour after he drained the young queen. Although Li Zhe had now ascended to the rank of Blood Viscount, he instinctively felt that the other party was formidable. He also realized that he had underestimated the queen's intelligence. It was far more clever and cunning than he had imagined. Earlier, the queen had seemingly been cornered by the floating direct descendant of the temple, and had been forced to create dozens of clones, each of which was killed and strangled by the temple's warriors. But in reality, it was a test, testing the strength of the direct descendant on the starship wreckage. Chen Tong was clearly able to use a secret mental technique to predict the queen's location. The queen also possessed powerful mental abilities. Despite their different races, sensing each other's power was not impossible. Although Li Zhe wasn't a psychic, his perception was incredibly sharp. He clearly sensed the queen insect and Chen Tong had engaged in numerous clandestine mental exchanges. Chen Tong had seemingly gained the upper hand by slaying dozens of the queen insect's clones, but in reality, the queen had already figured out her details and detected her mental range. This mental wave was a final test. Hiss, 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 a series of mental shrieks echoed again, enveloping the entire mountainous area in a powerful mental shock. The insects teeming with trembling, their skins tinging red and purple. They madly charged towards the starship wreckage, their explosive force at least several times greater than before. Many of the insects burst before they could even get far, like inflated balloons, spraying a dazzling array of internal organs and fluids everywhere. But many more, overwhelmed by the deadly mental pressure, trembled and screamed, charging forward bravely. How evil, Li Zihe quietly stopped his plundering and retreated to a safe corner. The queen instantly drained the life force from these insects, transforming them into disposable suicide weapons, no longer worth plundering. But this wasn't the queen's only tactic. After inciting the Zerg to launch their suicidal attack, her mental assault continued unabated, focusing even more heavily on the wreckage of the temple's starship. The brave temple warriors could no longer withstand the intensity of the mental assault and collapsed, unable to fight. Chen Tong coldly declared, "Activate the starship's automatic defense." The one-armed captain stumbled into the weapons control room and pressed the starship's automatic defense button. Boom, boom, boom. The starship's secondary guns began firing continuously, instantly clearing a large area of the Zerg forces. However, the queen forced more Zerg to pile in, using their flesh and blood to deplete the starship's energy reserves. "My lord, please leave." The one-armed captain rushed back to the deck, prostrating himself on the ground, pleading with Chen Tong. He knew full well that the wreckage of the starship, with only a single light sail left to harvest stellar energy, was incapable of sustaining the intense intensity of the battle. In a minute or two at most, the starship's entire energy supply would be depleted, and everyone on board would perish at the hands of the insects. But Chen Tong didn't leave. Instead, she slowly floated upward, her straight hair fluttering in the night breeze. A holy, ethereal song echoed through the night sky. As Chen Tong sang, a faint glow seemed to illuminate her body, a subtle tremor emanating from her pure white robes. She resembled the legendary, ethereal divine messenger, imbued with starlight and ethereal. The lingering sound of the song, like the chill of a lake, spread throughout the surrounding area, instantly sobering the temple warriors under the insect queen's mental assault. Their violent thoughts purged. Dang dang dang, kinetic cannons and Gatling guns roared again, resisting the frenzied, suicidal insect tide. And Chen Tong's song drifted into the distance, affecting the insects themselves. The frenzied insects were immediately affected, some bewildered, others resolutely self-destructing, their ferocious tide of attack slowing. Hiss, 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 the queen's mental assault intensified, bearing down on the temple's inhabitants with unstoppable force. All the temple warriors spat out blood, and the strongest knelt on the ground, praying for the god's grace and salvation. Blood began to seep from the corners of Chen Tong's mouth and ears, but her voice remained melodious, like a resilient umbrella, shielding all the temple's inhabitants. The intertwining psychic forces utterly disorganized the attacking insects. The continuous bang, bang, bang of self-destruction echoed like a summer rainstorm. The temple warriors, including the one-armed captain, were buoyed by Chen Tong's song. They believed the great gods had favored them, and that the evil insects would soon be annihilated by their sacred warriors. However, they failed to notice that Chen Tong, floating in the air, was already bleeding from all her orifices. She had been resisting fiercely, persistently searching for the queen's true form, but she had eluded her perception. It was truly difficult for her alone. Finally, the emanating singing voice registered a slight shift. With great effort, Chen Tong raised her staff and pointed in a vague direction. The one-armed captain was startled, finally realizing something was amiss. In the past, Chen Tong had always indicated a precise target, but never before had it been so vague. He sensed danger. Space torpedoes, 12 degrees, 6,000 units, 20 torpedoes, 20 units apart. As the queen forced a Zerg into a suicidal attack, Li Zihe felt helpless. Hundreds of his subjects lay trapped within the wreckage of the temple's starship. Li Zihe wanted to save them, but he was powerless. If he had a mecha now, perhaps he could attempt to change the tide of battle. After all, in the killing secret realm, he had repeatedly endured the challenging single-handed decapitation dungeons. But now, he had only a nearly depleted mobile suit, barely enough to filter air and sustain his breathing. Unwilling to add to his grief, Li Zihe prepared to leave. Then, he heard Chen Tong's singing. Singer. Him. A genetic memory instantly flashed through Li Zihe's mind. But before he could analyze it, a pair of eyes suddenly occupied his consciousness. Eyes as deep and dark as the starry sky, yet shimmering with a faint, star-like light. Who is it? Startled, Li Zihe leaped back, his senses unleashed, yet he sensed no human presence. It was a strange feeling. Li Zihe was certain there were no humans around, yet these eyes firmly dominated his visual perception. He suddenly realized that these eyes weren't just an optical image, but a mental image formed within his mind. The sudden appearance of these lingering eyes in his mind was truly eerie. But the next moment, The hidden inscription within Li Ziyi's body vibrated, instantly drawing his consciousness into a realm similar to the secret realm of slaughter. The first thing that caught his eye was a pair of eyes as deep as the starry sky. Then, their owner leaped backward, slowly ascending into the sky, and began to utter a gentle, melodious song. This woman was dressed in an exquisite white robe and a snow-white veil, similar in appearance to the chanter in the wreckage of the starship, but the cross on her robe was a higher-grade gold. The woman, her skirt billowing, floated through the air as she circled around Li Ziyi, dancing joyfully to the tune of the song like a soaring celestial being. Li Ziyi, now like he was in the killing secret realm, was completely incapable of self-action, and could only passively perceive everything that happened to Li Ziyi. It was as if he were a mere spirit, attached to the protagonist of the secret realm, sharing all his feelings and learning all his skills. He sensed his joy, his admiration, and the deep connection between them. There's actually this kind of training. Li Ziyi had experienced the hardships of various arduous battles in the killing secret realm, but this was his first time encountering such a pleasant and relaxing secret realm. However, happiness is always short-lived. It wasn't long before Li Ziyi realized there were no easy training sessions in the secret realm. Li Ziyi turned around and saw a mighty and magnificent mecha not far away. He boarded the mecha, started its engines, and roared off into the distance. The graceful woman, seemingly a celestial being, floated in the air beside him, humming a ballad as he moved forward. Li Ziyi relished this feeling of companionship, and the loneliness that had been simmering for so long was somewhat alleviated. He suddenly felt this secret realm experience as particularly real and comforting, and even the impending battle became something he looked forward to. Sure enough, enemy traces appeared in the distance, and the graceful woman's song began to change. Chapter 63, Small dishes to stimulate the appetite, large dishes to satisfy the craving. Back when Li Ziyi was on Langsing, he'd also been quite fond of music. He knew a good song, and by changing the arrangement and singing style, he could create a variety of renditions. And today, he encountered another great song. In the hidden secret realm, the mech piloted by Li Ziyi spotted an enemy ahead. The singing woman, floating to the left of the mech, shifted her tune, her originally melodious voice suddenly transforming into a holy, ethereal one. I've heard this song before. Li Ziyi, passively enjoying the experience, suddenly realized it was the same hymn the singer had just sung aboard the wreckage of the temple's starship. It turns out hymns can be gentle, melodious love songs. This song might have been responsible for Li Ziyi's triggering of the hidden secret realm. As the melody of the hymn shifted, Li Ziyi felt as if summoned by a mysterious force. A hidden node within him suddenly erupted, emitting a burst of brilliant starlight. This starlight was strikingly similar to the twinkling stars in the white-robed woman's eyes. Starlight twinkled, forming a swirl of stars like a brilliant galaxy, slowly swirling around Li Ziyi and enveloping the entire mighty and magnificent mecha. The chanting woman suddenly raised her arm in front of her, indicating a direction to move forward. Li Ziyi, she said, exerting force on her legs. The mighty and magnificent mecha roared with a resounding roar, charging towards the enemy target. The deadly stillness of the night was bitterly cold, and the scattered starlight cast a pale white against the earth. A cold night breeze blew from afar, carrying with it a few faint, almost inaudible songs. And beneath the earth, a behemoth life form, emitting silent mental shockwaves, fought a life or death battle with the singer. The song's frailty seemed to indicate the outcome was already certain. But at that moment, a brilliant starlight appeared at the end of the deadly horizon. It was a battered, 2-meter-tall mobile suit, but the warrior within, with his climaxing skill, carried a swirling starburst as it charged silently and at lightning speed. However, if one looked closely, one would notice that the mobile suit's eyes were hazy and unfocused, like a sleepwalker in a highly immersive, realistic dream. Yet, its long legs moved mechanically, making no sound at all. A truly paradoxical moment. Chirp! 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 20 space torpedoes suddenly ignited in unison in the sky, their roar resonating across the pale wasteland. Hiss! A sharp cry echoed underground, desperately extending deeper. However, the modified space torpedoes had enhanced their ability to drill into the earth, their powerful booster engines propelling them forward as they rammed into the ground. Boom! 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 A continuous, violent explosion enveloped the ground for thousands of meters. 20 balls of flame surged up from the ground, completely overturning the entire surface. It also completely awakened the sleepwalking mobile suit, engulfed in the dazzling starlight. The swirling stars vanished, and Li Zihe slammed on the brakes, looking around in panic. What's wrong with me? Where am I? Just moments ago, he was on the outskirts of a valley littered with insect corpses, yet in a split second, he was in this desolate wasteland. Was I being hypnotized? And what were those continuous explosions up ahead? Who is this whole scene trying to fool? Squeak! A massive insect head emerged from a deep pit. Right in Li Zihe's sight. Just by looking at the size of the insect queen's head, Li Zihe knew it was the size of a small mountain. Furthermore, its carapace, over 10 centimeters thick, made every move seem oppressive to Li Zihe, a stark contrast to the young insect queen from a few days ago. But once it fully emerged from the pit, Li Zihe realized it was in dire straits. A long gash pierced the sluggish belly, its 6 short legs missing several segments, its fleshy body scarred with wounds. Its thick carapace peeled back, revealing the flesh beneath. Li Zihe's eyes lit up, sensing the other man's presence. Wasn't this the same old man with thick skin and flesh? The old man was strong, truly strong. But he was now at his weakest. Li Zihe couldn't care less about how he'd gotten there. Fortune and wealth are sought in danger, and striking first was the only option. The dark blade knife flew out of his hand, sinisterly piercing the bloody hole in the man's upper body. Pure life force, continuously plucking from the air, was Li Zihe's own grasp. Small dishes whet the appetite, large dishes satisfy the craving. Refreshing, the hidden inscription trembled, and Li Zihe's aura vanished, blending into the surrounding night. But the queen was clearly alert. Li Zihe had only surreptitiously absorbed the tiny bit of its life force, and it sensed it. Squeak! The queen screamed, its 6 short, broken legs rapidly intertwining as its massive body leaped swiftly into the distance. Between its 6 legs, it had once been covered in thin, fleshy wings, but the blasts of 20 space torpedoes had damaged them, leaving it only capable of erratic leaps. Li Zihe followed suit, neither hurried nor slow. As long as the dark blade remained embedded in the queen, he remained calm, attacking or defending, slowly draining her. The injured queen was no fool, however. After a brief escape, she paused and launched an indiscriminate, all-encompassing mental attack. Li Zihe felt a sharp headache. He was now incredibly close to the queen, a stark contrast to the sensation from the distant valley. As the mental assault continued, Li Zihe began to wonder how long he could hold out and whether he could drain the queen dry. The answer was no. The creature was too massive, and his spirit might not be able to withstand it before he could drain it dry. It was just a possibility, but Li Zihe didn't want to take the risk. But at that moment, a faint song could be heard again in the distance. Chen Tong must have sensed the queen insect's mental shockwaves and once again began to resist. But the song reached Li Zihe's ears, and a plume of starlight erupted from his chest, forming a brilliant starburst. The queen insect spotted Li Zihe within 100 meters and howled as she leaped over. Her mountain-like belly dropped down into the air, ready to crush him to death with one blow. Li Zihe felt that sense of confusion return, unable to tell whether he was in a hidden secret realm or facing a truly massive insect. But the song guided him, and the starlight resisted the queen insect's mental pressure. Li Zihe suddenly swung his arm, and his one-handed heavy sword swept across an arc, creating a plume of starlight. Clang, clang, Li Zihe, enveloped in a swirl of stars, moved like lightning. His heavy sword instantly slashed through the insect queen's short legs, each as thick as a tree trunk. 2 clashes of metal echoed, and a leg was severed. Li Zihe's morale surged, and he swung his heavy sword like a dragon, circling the insect queen and slashing. The heavy sword, imbued with starlight, became unmatched in its sharpness, slicing through the thickly armored shell of the insect queen, leaving her with a creaking sound. The dark blade attached to the insect queen's back continuously sapped her life force, further weakening the already wounded and clumsy queen. Squeak, squeak, the insect queen abandoned her attack and began to flee once more. But a swirl of stars leaped up and down around her, slicing her 6 short legs to just 2, forcing her to tumble and spin. Li Zihe continued to stab her, inflicting deep wounds, causing the insect queen's blood to spurt. The more the queen insect struggled, the more blood spurted from its wounds. This spurting blood was drawn to Li Zihe's side, where it continuously condensed and fragmented in midair. Just like when he had hunted Countess, this blood, under the control of the plunder inscription, condensed into pure life force, which was then absorbed by Li Zihe. After a long time, the massive queen insect finally let out a mournful cry and fell to the ground, trembling. Just a few days ago, it was a powerful being that made Li Zihe flee at the sight of it, a dominant force at the top of the planet's food chain. But in just a few days, it had fallen to the point of being slaughtered at will. Chapter 64. Why is my willpower so weak? Li Zihe coldly stared at the queen insect. He didn't respond to her telepathic communication until she drew her last breath. It was nothing more than a series of hysterical threats. Paying attention to it would only add to his troubles. The queen insect's mountain-like body had shriveled and withered, its life force drained by Li Zihe, condensing into 37 drops of pale golden life fluid. Of course, if it hadn't been seriously injured beforehand, there would have been more. But if it hadn't been injured, Li Zihe wouldn't have been able to complete this plunder, let alone these 37 drops of pale golden life fluid. Besides that, Li Zihe had gained something else. When Li Zihe's battle with the queen insect ended, the starlight around him automatically faded, and the dreamlike feeling vanished. But upon waking, Li Zihe subconsciously sensed himself and discovered that something had indeed appeared within him. A tiny speck of stardust. It emitted a faint, insignificant glow, quite unremarkable. But when Li Zihe channeled his consciousness into it, he saw a brilliant and dazzling galaxy. A genetic memory unlocked in his mind, but after Li Zihe finished interpreting it, his doubts only intensified. I'm just an inexplicable complex of contradictions, Li Zihe cursed angrily, turning and soaring off into the distance. After the space torpedo rammed into the ground, the one-armed captain aboard the wreckage of the temple starship breathed a sigh of relief. He sensed the disappearance of the queen's mental attack. But then he realized that while the worm swarm in the valley had either self-destructed or been shot, some had survived. Which queen survived? If the queen died, all her creatures would suffer spiritual death, leading to physical death. Sure enough, just a minute or two later, the queen's mental attack resurfaced, and the chanter, Lady Chen Tong, began chanting once more. This time, however, her chanting was brief, concluding in a matter of minutes. By then, the one-armed captain had seen the bloodstains on Chen Tong's face and knew she, too, had been severely injured. But he still steeled himself and asked, Master Chen Tong, should we continue launching space torpedoes? Chen Tong shook her head, remaining silent, but her beautiful brows knitted together. The one-armed captain, anxious, couldn't decide whether to leave or stay. He could only stand on the deck, staring at the insects in the valley, awaiting the outcome. Seeing the captain's anxious expression, Chen Tong said calmly, that insect is dying, dead. The one-armed captain was puzzled. Could Master Chen Tong's perception be so accurate? But moments later, all the insects in the valley collectively lost power and followed the insect queen. Praise the gods, thank you, Master Chen Tong. This time, instead of cheering, everyone knelt devoutly in prayer. As a direct descendant of the temple, Chen Tong was the divine spirit's representative on earth. This time, the victory over the insects was entirely due to her, and naturally, she received praise tantamount to that of a god. But for the recipient of this praise, Chen Tong's behavior was somewhat strange. She stared fixedly into the distance, lapsed into a long silence. Just now, she had a strange feeling. Someone, far away in the sky, seemed to be responding to her singing in a tacit understanding. Others might not understand the significance of this tacit response, but as a core disciple of the temple, she naturally understood the profound significance it held for a member of the temple. Chen Tong suddenly moved, leaping from the wrecked starship's deck with a single, gentle step, floating off into the distance without touching the ground. Master Chen Tong, where are you going? The one-armed captain asked in surprise, but Chen Tong's figure had already drifted far away. Thor, Quinn, follow Master Chen Tong immediately. You must ensure her safety. The two mobile suits turned and entered the starship's interior. Soon, two mechas emerged, treading over the insect corpses strewn across the ground, chasing Chen Tong. These two mechas were the one-armed captain's final trump card. All was reserved for Chen Tong. In his eyes, the death of everyone here wouldn't matter, but if Chen Tong died, even more people would be implicated, including his own family. Chen Tong landed in front of the queen's corpse, her handsome brows furrowing even deeper. The queen had only recently died, yet she was shrunken and withered, like a corpse. This didn't match her expectations, but rather resembled. Chen Tong's pupils suddenly constricted, as if she understood something. Behind her, 2 temple mechas raced towards her, recklessly stirring up 2 dust dragons across the desolate plain. Chen Tong waved her staff lightly, and the queen's corpse erupted in flames, instantly enveloping its massive form. Sins are past, soul rest in peace. 2 powerful mechas raced to their feet, one guarding Chen Tong while the other vigilantly surveyed the surroundings, demonstrating immense protective experience. But before they could even catch their breath, Chen Tong lightly retreated. The 2 temple pilots froze for a moment, then hurried to catch up again. This time, they managed to keep pace. But they didn't notice that before leaving, Chen Tong glanced in the direction Li Ziyi had flown. Li Ziyi hadn't actually run very far. In a secluded corner not far away, he activated his phone and released the Wealthbird station, then monitored the direction of the queen's corpse through the transparent station's walls. He had realized that his recent sleepwalking incident was related to the hymn. Now he had to find out whether the hymn singer on the wreckage of the starship had noticed his presence. He also wanted to test whether this small station, in addition to shielding it from all external observation, could also block the hymn that could affect him. Then he saw Chen Tong flying in from a distance. Li Ziyi was surprised to find that Chen Tong wasn't wearing any interstellar survival gear like a breathing mask or thermal suit. Her divine robe and veil must be the legendary source energy suit, Li Ziyi muttered enviously as he adjusted the integrated telescope to its maximum focus. Li Ziyi didn't see the changes in Chen Tong's pupils, but her expression was very clear. She noticed something was wrong with the queen insect's corpse. But when 2 mechas appeared in the distance, Chen Tong immediately burned the queen insect's corpse. Why did she burn the queen insect's corpse? What is she trying to hide? Seeing Chen Tong hurriedly coming and leaving, Li Ziyi couldn't understand her behavior. But when Chen Tong suddenly looked over before leaving, the pair of eyes as deep as the starry sky that appeared in the telescope made Li Ziyi lose his mind for a rare time. Isn't this the woman in the hidden secret realm? Why is my willpower so weak? Chen Tong and the woman Li Ziyi saw in the hidden secret realm actually had exactly the same eyes. Chapter 65 Che and Lan's story. Li Ziyi closed the Kaneo Express app and circled across the desolate plain, stopping near the nest where he'd killed the first queen larva. Each queen has its own territory, and since the queen here had just died, the new one hadn't been able to grow up so quickly, so the area around here was relatively safe. Li Ziyi dug another deep hole and buried himself. This time, however, he wasn't going to sleep, but to find out what had just happened. Li Ziyi couldn't believe he was buried so deep underground. Even if he was still controlled by the faint singing, how could he not wake up when he broke free? Furthermore, Li Ziyi had set up some tricks. Any loud movement would cause steel spikes to pierce his body, the pain guaranteed to bring him back to consciousness. Li Ziyi stretched out his legs and tried to channel his consciousness into the hidden inscription. Now, he could only seek answers in this hidden secret realm. Within the secret realm, Li Ziyi saw the graceful woman again, but this time she wasn't singing. Instead, she sat across from Li Ziyi and played chess with him. This was a type of chess Li Ziyi had never encountered before. It was incredibly simple to play. As a spectator, he felt it was a foolish, time-wasting game. But the 2 people in the secret realm were enjoying themselves, their laughter sometimes boisterous and sometimes resonant. A sour feeling suddenly grew in Li Ziyi's heart, a bittersweet feeling that only grew more bitter. He knew these 2 weren't just stupid, but were enjoying a kind of pleasure he had never truly experienced. The problem was that Li Ziyi completely shared the feelings of the protagonists in the secret realm. He felt this subtle, sweet sour feeling as well. At this moment, Li Ziyi was overwhelmed with emotions, unable to control himself. After the game was over, the woman suddenly removed her veil and asked, "Che, will you stay with me forever?" Che, who was packing up the chess pieces, was stunned for a moment before looking up at the woman. It was undeniable that the woman was truly stunning, her smile blooming like a flower, and her eyes, as deep as the starry sky, were truly captivating. "Of course. No matter where I go, you must come with me." Li Ziyi, a passive observer, finally understood something. This secret realm concealed the genetic memories passed down from his ancestors, and its owner was named Che, and the stunningly beautiful woman with deep eyes was called Lan. This was a crucial discovery. Li Ziyi had long lacked a precise understanding of the innate abilities inherent in the inscription secret realm. None of the historical records Mu Yu had found contained any such innate abilities. He had previously hypothesized that these secret realms were memories hidden within his ancestors' genes, but because the experiences felt so real, Lineage could only passively accept them, sometimes leading to feelings of self-loathing. Sometimes, Lineage wondered if the experiences within the secret realms were merely training exercises, a product of his own mental disorder. But now that the protagonist was named Che, all doubts vanished. From now on, Lineage was Lineage, and Che was Che. Unconsciously, Lineage immersed himself in Che's past life memories, feeling a mixture of envy and bitterness about their shared experiences. The two form a superpowered partnership. Lan is a distinguished, descendant monk of the temple and a gifted chanter. Che, on the other hand, is a pilot in a lower-level temple organization, possessing a remarkable talent for mecha control. Despite their vastly different statuses, they coincidentally share a unique connection, a resonance of primordial energy, called intimate connection. This mysterious bond, characterized by a harmonious primordial energy, allows Lan, a chanter, to boost morale and ward off enemy psychic attacks on the battlefield. With Che as his intimate partner, Lan can remotely stimulate and channel Che's inner primordial energy potential, unleashing power beyond his control. Che, a formidable mecha warrior, can penetrate dangerous terrain and physically destroy powerful foes. Their rapport and coordination, combined with their telepathic connection, creates a powerful force multiplier in battle. Because this intimate connection is rare within the temple, the barrier between Che and Lan's identities becomes easily brittle. So began the drama of the impoverished boy finding favor with a noble lady. The two, captivated by each other's affections, connected through repeated battles, their love entangled, and quickly blossomed into passionate romance. But just as the plot was about to enter its climax, Lan's skirts flying off in all directions, Lineage's consciousness was suddenly expelled from the hidden secret realm. What the hell? Lineage fumed. The last time this happened was when he was a kid, watching American films in the living room, and his parents had chased him into his room, preventing him from watching the exciting parts. Oh. Back then, in the killing secret realm with Che, we'd been exhausted and injured without missing out. How painful and agonizing was that immersive experience. Now, finally reaching the exciting part, they thought I, an outsider soul, was an eyesore? They wanted to throw me out? No way. Lineage huffed, injecting his consciousness into the hidden secret realm inscription, hoping to squeeze in and continue watching the most exciting part, the perfect experience of wholehearted sharing. But for the first time, the hidden inscription repelled Lineage's consciousness, as if to say, I want to see a movie. Do you have tickets? Furious, Lineage's mind raced. He suddenly controlled the pale golden life droplets he had just harvested and poured them into the hidden inscription. 3 drops of life droplets merged into the hidden inscription, and the blood-colored inscription suddenly transformed, a layer of gold shimmering around its edges. Lineage's consciousness flowed unimpeded, and he once again entered the hidden secret realm. Unfortunately, the exciting memory fragment had passed, and the secret realm had already replaced it with another one. I want a refund, Lineage roared angrily, just like when he and his brothers had caused trouble. But within this secret realm, he was just a bystander, without any control. He could only silently observe the other experiences between Che and Lan and experience Che's psychological journey. Suddenly, one day, Che was astonished to discover he had comprehended the temple's unique secrets of energy. No longer needing Lan's singing to guide him, he could unleash his hidden energy, transforming into a brilliant starburst. Overjoyed, Lan brought Che to a towering, majestic temple, where he met an exceptionally majestic priest. After rigorous testing, Che's perfect talent astounded the world. Che became a direct descendant of the temple, bestowed the rank of Grand Knight. And alongside Lan, was hailed as the temple's new generation of leaders. During Che's initiation ceremony, Lan, clad in a white robe and veil, subtly winked at him. Gentle and dignified, she seemed to be hinting at something with this playful gesture. However, Lineage strangely shared Che's feelings. He wasn't as happy as Lan had imagined. Hesitation, uncertainty, and even a hint of regret filled his heart. And then, Lineage sensed something fishy and eagerly waited for the next episode, but the memory fragment within the secret realm suddenly froze. It was like playing a ranked match and then losing the internet connection. Lineage waited patiently for a long time, but the memory fragment didn't update again. He exited the hidden secret realm and logged back in, only to have the fragment restart from the beginning, stuck at the moment when Shay became a direct descendant cultivator. This is not going to end right now, he recalled a tomb raiding masterpiece from back then, where it was at its most exciting point, only to be cut short. What a terrible feeling that was. Li Zihe thought the hidden inscription had developed a strong appetite and wanted to reward him, so he injected another drop of the pale golden liquid, but found that the hidden inscription could no longer absorb it. This situation had happened before. Li Zihe knew that the inscriptions within his body needed to develop evenly, so he prepared to distribute the 30 or so drops of life liquid he had just acquired. However, after distributing only a dozen drops, all the inscriptions stopped absorbing the life droplets and began a slow transformation. Wisps of golden thread swirled across the surface of the inscription, and Li Zihe sensed his body slowly awakening greater powers and more mysterious skills. Seeing others asking for more, this was my first time on the science fiction scene, so I decided to join in the fun. Chapter 66 Not Worthy of Pity. Li Zihe sensed that the transformation of his inscription would be extremely slow, but upon completion, significant changes would undoubtedly occur. His subconscious told him that he could sleep through this long transformation. However, he couldn't sleep. He urgently needed to understand two things. First, the extent of the influence of the chanter's voice on him. If the chanter could easily control him, he would have to devise a plan to eliminate him. The temple was the vampire's mortal enemy, and there was no room for compromise. Second, he needed to figure out how to leave this desolate planet. Judging by the temple's survivors struggling alone in the valley, it was highly likely that no human forces existed on this planet, completely controlled by the insects. All hope of leaving the planet rested on the wreckage of the temple's starship. Once they were rescued, he would be left alone, staring at the stars. Of course, Li Zihe could have played the game of wild planet drifting, plundering bugs while waiting for Yu to find him and rescue him. But he didn't want to take that risk. After all, the starry sky was so vast, and the chances of waiting for rescue were about the same as waiting for a rabbit by a tree. The next day, the bugs strangely stopped attacking the wreckage of the temple's starship. Li Zihe retreated to a nearby hill and carefully observed the survivors of the Red Rock City from a distance, hoping to find the person who had altered the ship's warp parameters, putting them in such a predicament. During the battle, the survivors of the Red Rock City were pushed to the forefront by the temple's warriors, and during their rest periods, they were also excluded from the wreckage. Several interstellar survival tents were scattered around the wreckage, housing hundreds of survivors. Li Zihe had kept a low profile during his time at Red Castle Manor, so he had never met most of these people. However, this didn't prevent him from identifying the groups by their behavior and relationships. After a full day of observation, Li Zihe finally identified his target. A loner, isolated from everyone. He didn't live in a tent in the wilderness, but on the wreckage, he was despised by all the temple warriors. Aside from eating with the temple warriors at mealtimes, he would sit in a secluded corner, lost in thought. He was wearing the uniform of the Red Rock City crew. In the dead of night, Li Zihe untied his mobile suit, donning only a simple breathing mask. Enduring the -60°C chill, he quietly made his way towards the wreckage. The silent valley was bitterly cold, but the temple warriors didn't slack off. Several mobile suits continued to patrol the decks of the wreckage. Inside the starship, energy detection equipment and vibration monitoring systems remained operational, constantly on guard against a sudden attack from the insect horde. But they had no idea that a shadowy figure, blending into the darkness, had quietly evaded all security measures and entered a room within the wreckage. Li Zihe keenly sensed the difference in his stealth talent, as if overnight he had mastered many incomprehensible techniques. For example, even though a mobile suit patrolling the temple was clearly just meters away, he could blend completely into the darkness, slipping under their noses. More importantly, their gaze swept over Li Zihe's position, but they automatically passed over his shadow. Even a chameleon can't be as good as me. Li Zihe had a profound understanding of the meaning of concealment. It was a technique that deceived multiple blind spots in vision and perception, a powerful tool for murder, robbery, and theft. Li Zihe quietly entered the room and saw the identification badge on his uniform. Wheeler, the chief power engineer of the Red Rock City. He was still asleep, tossing and turning, anxious for some unknown reason. Since he was sure he hadn't made a mistake, Li Zihe didn't waste any time. He knocked him unconscious with a single blow, carefully put on his interstellar protective suit, and carried him out like a pig. Li Zihe was doubly cautious upon his exit. He knew from his genetic memories that a chanter like Chen Tong was considered a mid-level cultivator within the temple, and their psychic perception was not to be underestimated. A single careless move could easily lead to her detection. Fortunately, Li Zihe managed to carry Wheeler, the Red Rock City's chief engineer, away without incident. He ripped open Wheeler's protective suit, and the chilling heat was like a bucket of ice water, instantly bringing him to consciousness. Upon regaining consciousness, Wheeler didn't scream in panic, but instead stared at Li Zihe numbly, a wry smile on his face. "Gore, you still won't give up, right?" Li Zihe remained silent, his cold gaze fixed on the other man. Some people, under mental pressure, will involuntarily speak to relieve the stress, and Wheeler was one of them. "Even if I agreed to your promise, it would be useless. Those people in the temple don't believe me. I'm actually even more pitiful than you. You still have families and children. Once you return to the Federation, you can start a new life. But what about me? What do I have left?" Wheeler stared at Li Zihe with a hollow, aggrieved look, as if he were lamenting his misfortune to a close friend. It was a strange sight. Li Zihe said coldly, "At least you're still alive. Nearly 1,000 people aboard the Red Rock City lost their lives because of you. Thousands of happy families have been shattered because of you." The numb Wheeler suddenly became agitated. "What about the lives of my wife and children? When Master Ethan served my wife as the main course at the blood feast, who cared about my family?" Wheeler cried. "My wife was already pregnant with their second child when she left. They lied to me, saying they were just sending her to dance with the guests." Li Zihe was shocked. Li Zihe was furious. He had always detested the cruelty of the blood feast, a practice so endemic among the vampires, and had sternly warned Yu against it. Think about it. Lifting a living person onto the dining table, tearing her body apart, and hearing her screams, all just to elicit some perverted delight deep within. What kind of wicked custom is this? And now, this very thing has happened to Ethan. What kind of a tragedy? This is simply a family tragedy. Li Zihe suppressed his rage and pulled Wheeler's protective suit over him to prevent him from freezing to death in the -60 degrees Celsius temperature. He had more questions. "Your lies are ridiculous. Viscount Ethan is a member of the forbidden sect. He wouldn't hold a blood feast. And you actually let your wife dance with someone else." Wheeler, tears streaming down his face, said, "It was Master Ethan's personal butler who personally took my wife away and even changed her into a beautiful dress. We were just trying to live a better life. Who knew it would turn out like this?" Li Zihe shouted. "Who did your wife dance with?" Wheeler whispered, "The bigwigs of Twilight Continent. This man deserved no pity." Chapter 67. What a big pot. While the vampire world was indeed somewhat licentious, Li Zihe absolutely disapproved of the flattering "if you can't afford money, give your wife" approach. Upon hearing Wheeler ask his wife to dance with a big shot, Li Zihe lost all restraint and stared into Wheeler's eyes, unleashing his intense mental oppression upon this ordinary man. "Then how did you get in touch with the temple, eh?" Wheeler's heart pounded. He tried to avoid answering the question, but he couldn't help but say, "I didn't contact the temple. Someone gave me a jump parameter. They said that if I entered it during an interstellar jump, I could avenge my family, receive a large sum of money, and start a new life in the Federation." "Someone gave you the jump parameters? Who was that person?" "I don't know. He wore a silver, flexible metal mask. He was very powerful, and he took my eldest son away. I really couldn't resist. I didn't mean to kill my companions. I didn't know he was a temple spy. I didn't expect Duke Melton to send the Southern Forest, and Master Ethan didn't board the Red Rock City. I couldn't contact the masked man, so I had to stick to the original plan." Under Li Zihe's mental pressure, Wheeler's mind was about to lose control. Tears and snot flowed as he confessed his innocence, his previous numbness and emptiness gone. He still wanted to live. But Li Zihe was stunned. Who could the person wearing the silver, flexible metal mask be? Li Zihe asked, "What are the characteristics of that masked man?" "He's about the same height as you, Gore, and a bit thin. He's about the same height as you, and he smells faintly of oil. He must be a mechanic." "Yes, a mechanic. He must have cleaned it deliberately, but in our line of work, that smell of lubricant is unmistakable." Li Zihe felt as if a dark, heavy cauldron had appeared on his back, his mind trampled by countless wow horses. "Who the hell is trying to trick me? Who else did you tell about that masked man? I didn't tell anyone. Wheeler suddenly felt Gore's fierceness before him, and he was instantly frightened. Li Zihe forced himself to remain silent and began to interrogate Wheeler with other questions. Wheeler, losing his willpower, knew not to speak without telling anything. At the end, Wheeler said sincerely, "Gore, give up. Now that we've been captured by the temple, there's no way we can return to the Red Castle family. As long as we obey and don't resist, the temple masters will at least not kill us. Think of those who suffered the burning at the stake. You can't defeat the temple. If they find out I'm dead, that Balier will burn you like he did Bill and the others. Think of you and Lynch's child." Wheeler spoke with increasing fervor, but Li Zihe twisted his neck. "No, you're not as important as you think. The temple people won't change a thing because of your death." Although Wheeler felt more wrong than Dowie, Li Zihe killed him without hesitation. If he didn't die, the nearly 1,000 innocent souls aboard the Red Rock City would die with remorse. Before strangling Wheeler, Li Zihe extracted some of the information he needed, and in his rage, he had no reason to forgive him. This planet is a barren world nestled in the heart of a chaotic star field, not a typical warp route node. Even many civilian star maps don't even have it marked. Only military maps bear the designation A16. So, it's well deserved to be called a deserted place. Not only are there no human or vampire forces stationed here, but even pirates, who seek out remote corners for their bases, wouldn't base themselves in such a place. Even more devastating, the planet is surrounded by a complex electromagnetic field, making normal communication impossible. The distress signal sent by the Red Rock City before its death wouldn't even reach Mu. However, the temple's Mu Guang-class battleship has interstellar instant messaging equipment and has already sent a distress signal. Rescue should arrive within the next few days. Li Zihe had two options: either follow the temple's forces or remain on this infested planet, waiting for Mu to find him. But now it seemed the second path was blocked. After the deaths of two queens, the insect army refrained from attacking the wreckage of the temple starship for 2 days. During these 2 days, Li Zihe either sensed the transformation of inscriptions like slaughter and plunder, or entered a hideaway inscription to search for a solution. He vaguely felt that within the hideaway secret realm, he could find a solution to his current predicament. But no matter how many times Li Zihe entered, the process remained a repetitive cycle. He explored it dozens of times, yet found no solution. Instead, his resentment as a single person grew stronger. Because within the secret realm, Li Zihe and Che shared all their physical and mental feelings. When Che and Lang fought in close coordination, the sweet sensations they felt, even though they weren't the protagonists, were practically feeding Li Zihe with dog food. They were practically starving him to death. "Master Chen Tong, we haven't been attacked by bugs these past few days. According to the technical officer's analysis, the bugs and us have reached a tacit understanding. Since we don't expand into the surrounding area, they have accepted our existence." Atop the wreckage of the starship in the temple, the one-armed captain was reporting the technical department's analysis to Chen Tong. The bugs hadn't attacked in the past 2 days, but Master Chen Tong's brows were still furrowed, which made the one-armed captain very worried. "Whether the Zerg attack continues or not, we can't leave here, so tell your men to stop doing such useless things." The one-armed captain paused, then asked awkwardly, "Now that the fighting has ceased, should we deal with those vampires?" Chen Tong raised his head and asked coldly, "How? Burn them all? Do you think I'm being too merciful?" "No, Lord Chen Tong. We've interrogated them rigorously for a day, but none of them have revealed any clues to Wheeler's disappearance. This shows how stubborn they are." The one-armed captain quickly began to explain that Chen Tong's too merciful wasn't directed at the vampire captives, but at the temple warriors. A few days ago, someone had burned 5 vampire captives at the stake. The kind-hearted Lord Chen Tong was furious and had the temple warriors whipped. If he misunderstood her now, he would be whipped. "I plan to select a portion of these captives and provide them with better living conditions, allowing them to experience the divine mercy, thereby dividing their internal divisions and ultimately transforming them into the divine subjects." After saying this, the one-armed captain looked at Chen Tong with a complex mood. This venerable, orthodox monk was undoubtedly respectable. She was calm, brave, and strong, capable of defeating powerful and vicious enemies. But she was also pedantic, believing that mercy could overcome all evil in the world, leading those stubborn vampires to forget that the temple's most powerful weapon was not mercy, but majesty. Chen Tong lowered her head again, pondering for a moment before saying, "Tomorrow, you prepare a sermon, and I will attempt to influence them." The one-armed captain looked incredulous, but then asked, "Can others also participate?" "Of course. The divine mercy extends to everyone in the world." "Yes, sir. I'll arrange it right away." The one-armed captain excitedly left, and soon, joyful cheers could be heard from outside. The sermons of a direct descendant monk enchanter were not something that these frontline soldiers could easily access. Chapter 68 Mutual Trust. A tacit peace had settled between the Zerg and the temple. Li Zihe had also built a hidden observation post not far from the wreckage, constantly monitoring its movements. If a rescue ship arrived, he would have to make a difficult decision. As the stars dipped in the sky, another day of waiting passed in vain. Li Zihe silently carved a mark into the stone wall of his observation post. 6 days had passed, and he had no idea how Mu Yu was doing, whether a search and rescue operation had begun, or when they would find this place. "Is today Spring Festival?" Li Zihe looked at the mark on the stone wall, vacantly pulling out his phone and opening it, only to find that it was indeed the day that brings sadness to all wanderers. Opening the Kaneo Station app, Li Zihe discovered that aside from a few messages from his sister, no one on his phone seemed to care about him, a child so far away from home. He opened WeChat and video invited his beloved sister. She answered immediately. But the siblings stared at each other, silent, each waiting for the other to speak. Li Zihe understood that if he felt lonely, then how could his younger sister, even younger than him, not feel the same pain? But after a moment's silence, it was Li Xiaowan who laughed first. She cupped her hands and bowed to Li Zihe like a lucky cat. "Brother, your precious sister wishes you a happy new year. I kowtow to you, sir. May you prosper and prosper. Give me the red envelope." "Can you give me a bigger one?" Li Zihe wiped his eyes while his sister kowtowed. "Of course there are red envelopes. I haven't contacted you these days since I returned to Africa from Europe, Xiaowan. Let me tell you. I'm not being demoted this time. I've become a regional partner of the small post station, and my income has increased more than tenfold. Our Li family is on the rise again. Yeah. I received all the money you sent me, brother. I paid off the last installment a few days ago, but guess what?" Li Xiaowan was overjoyed. "Third aunt and the others actually sent me New Year's goods, and asked me for your number, saying they wanted to apologize to you, and then they wanted to send a few cousins to work with you. They really have the nerve. As soon as they left, I sent all the gifts to the welfare home next door. Humph. I'm being polite by not throwing them in the trash can." Li Zihe gave a thumbs up and praised, "Xiaowan, you're right. Our family is now a wealthy family. We should draw a clear line between us. By the way, where are the new clothes I asked you to buy for the new year? Wear them for me to see." "Okay, wait a minute." Li Xiaowan jumped out of the camera and went into the room to change clothes. Li Zihe took the opportunity to turn on the computer and transfer money to his sister. He originally entered 9.99 million, but later felt that it was inappropriate, and finally changed it to 99,000. Although Li Zihe knew that girls should be raised in wealth, it was difficult for him to explain such a large sum of money to his eccentric sister suddenly. His lying skills were only entry level, and it was still a long way from the maximum level. He couldn't hide it. The girl took a little time to change clothes. While waiting, Li Zihe clicked on his Taobao shop. The shelves of the shop were empty, but there were many more messages from buyers in the message column, which made Li Zihe understand that in addition to his sister Li Xiaowan, there were other people in his hometown who missed him. "Brother, I am completely safe now. I didn't say anything to them, but your Pink 60 account was blocked. I found your account with great difficulty. Do you still have the gold coins, brother? Just believe me. I'll raise the price for you to 2,500 per coin. You can pay first." A few months later, Li Zihe's first client contacted Li Zihe again after he got caught reselling precious metals. But Li Zihe no longer cared about the small amount of money he could make from selling gold coins. "I only sell artworks now. They are very valuable. You can buy them if you are interested," Li Zihe replied quickly, and then put out a few paintings in stock and marked a new price. "Artworks? Are they the same artworks as those gold coins? Oh my god, big brother, you are too high-end. Starting at 500,000, and 1 million is not enough." "Okay, I believe you, please believe me too," the other party responded quickly, and bought a painting for 500,000, as honestly as when he bought the gold coins before. Hearing the other party's voice, he already knew that the gold coins that Lineage had sold before were not just ordinary gold coins. Is this a sting operation? Lineage didn't completely believe the other party, but it didn't matter. He would never deal with those gold coins that couldn't be sold at a high price in the future anyway. No matter the crime of reselling precious metals or reselling cultural relics, it couldn't be pinned on him. Selling paintings is a matter of willingness to fight. Those masters can sell millions of dollars with just a few strokes of shit with their eyes closed. What can you do? Go and sue him? Most of the other messages were meaningless. Professor Wang Yuru of Hume continued to scold Lineage from the commanding heights of art, but she replaced the charge of not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth with malicious self-promotion. A very powerful buyer still wanted to learn technology from Lineage, and even put forward such an embarrassing condition as the apprenticeship fee. In addition to these messages, a New Year's greeting letter from HW warmed Lineage's heart a lot. Dear Mr. Ms. Musi, hello. We have contacted you many times, but have not received a reply. We want to sincerely wish you a happy new year and express our gratitude, but we cannot see you in person. We even know your name and can only use the name left on your paintings. In the past month, it was like a dream, and we witnessed the first carbon-based chip in Yan country that can support large-scale applications. Although what has happened in the past month can be described as unbelievable, no matter what your intentions are, we would like to express our sincere gratitude. The wording of the New Year's letter was warm and rigorous, but Lineage heard some off-topic. HW company still had doubts about the production technology of carbon-based chips with a strange origin, so it used the wording of the first in Yan country. Lineage immediately replied, the technology of this chip does not involve all the hegemonic companies on Langsing, and there are no barriers to the use of patents. You can announce to the world that this is the first successful carbon-based chip in Langsing. Lineage waited for less than a minute before the other party's reply came. Hello, is this Mr. Musi or Ms. Musi? Smiling face, add widget and scan my QR code. Lineage sent a QR code directly. Since his old customers can find this account by following clues, he will not discuss any private issues on this account in the future. Widget was added soon, and Lineage found that the other party was actually a lady. Lineage, are you worried that the equipment and technology I provide may infringe on patents? Dear Musi, first of all, I apologize to you. This is really an issue that cannot be avoided. You also know that we are in a difficult situation now and cannot bear any false accusations. Lineage then analyze from a professional perspective. Have the other hegemonic companies reached a similar level of technology? Lineage, what I can assure you is that I am a Yan countryman, and I will not do anything that goes against the interests of Yan country. In addition, I hope that there is enough trust between us. After finishing speaking, Lineage closed the conversation and stopped replying. He believed that the strong HW people had the courage to move forward and were not afraid of any form of false accusations. At the HW headquarters in another world, a steady and generous middle-aged woman looked at the mobile phone in her hand and thought for a moment, then dialed a number. The other party replied to me. I think the new carbon-based chip mobile phone can be put on the market. How about it, brother? Is your sister still presentable? Xiaowan came back to the camera 10 minutes later. Her fresh and beautiful image made Lineage's eyes light up, and he felt greatly comforted. His sister looks very much like Lineage. She has been beautiful since she was a child. Lineage is now sure that even if he suddenly gets into trouble outside, she will have many bad boys lining up to show her affection. Moreover, his sister is very smart. As long as she keeps her eyes open, she will not have to worry about having a good life in the future. Over the years, it seems that he is the one who is supporting his sister's life, but in fact he is the one who is dragging her down. After all, those debts are all recorded in his name, Lineage, and theoretically have nothing to do with Xiaowan. The clothes are not very high-end. I have given you a sum of money. Buy a few brand name pieces when the season changes. Don't lose face for our Li family. Lineage began to cultivate his sister's consumption concept imperceptibly, preparing to let her get rid of the temperament of stingy little money grubber step by step. Okay, I promise not to feel sorry for the money. It's natural for my sister to spend her brother's money. Xiaowan agreed hurriedly, not at all like she was stingy before. The brother and sister talked for a long time before hanging up the phone. Although the Li family's debt was paid off, Li Xiaowan did not ask Li Ziyi when he would return home. She may have understood that asking would be fruitless, so it would be better not to ask. But after hanging up the phone, Li Xiaowan carefully took off her clothes, folded them again and put them into the packaging bag, opened the shopping website and clicked no reason return. She didn't even remove the label. No matter how much money you send back, it's yours. I will save it for you. In case one day you are dumped by a big man, the money will be used to marry me a new sister-in-law. I don't want one that's not pretty. What Li Xiaowan didn't know was that Li Ziyi on the other end of the phone was thinking about the issue that concerned her most. Since HW can understand the chip technology I gave, then the civilizations of the two worlds should be of the same origin. Is Langsing really a refuge? I should be able to go back, right? Many of the things Li Ziyi has experienced in the past year cannot be explained by science, but just because they cannot be explained now does not mean they cannot be explained in the future. Who would have thought that the bugs in StarCraft are real? Who would have thought that the vampires in Underworld really exist? Li Ziyi now believes that many of the science fiction ideas on Langsing are not random mindless fantasies, but perhaps just the human brain's vague memories of the previous civilization. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Intimate and Stealing Heart. As daylight crept into the sky, the temple warriors from the wreckage herded all the captives from the Red Rock City onto the ship's deck. Each of them was given a small bucket of water and instructed to clean themselves. The night's chill hadn't yet fully subsided, and the captives, enduring the sub-zero temperatures, gritted their teeth as they scrubbed the dirt from their bodies. The intense humiliation within them transformed into raging rage. But soon, many temple warriors also began washing themselves, though their expressions were less angry and more reverent. After everyone showered, changed, and knelt on the deck, the spotless Chen Tong emerged from the wreckage and gently stood on a makeshift pulpit. What's she going to do? Is she holding a sermon in this kind of environment? Li Ziyi gazed at the temple crowd in confusion, and the next moment, he heard Chen Tong singing. Having suffered a setback, Li Ziyi immediately retreated to his designated position, activated the pre-installed anti-sleepwalking lock with his left hand, and pulled out his phone with his right hand, ready to release the Wealth Bird station. But then he realized that this time, Chen Tong's singing wasn't controlling his body, only a resonance in his mind. The soothing, melodious sound flowed gently through his mind like clear water, moistening his tense nerves. It slowly flowed through his body, cleansing his weary soul. The temple warriors on the wreckage of the starship had already knelt and begun devout prayer. They looked as if they had seen the deity they longed for. The captives, forced to kneel on the deck, had also ceased their subtle restlessness, lowered their heads, and listened quietly to the song, looking no different from the temple's worshippers. What a powerful spiritual talent! Li Ziyi could clearly sense the power of Chen Tong's chant, extinguishing his longing for home to a near-zero level. It was truly remarkable. As Chen Tong continued to chant, Li Ziyi suddenly felt the hidden inscription within his body respond again, calling out to him. Li Ziyi hesitated, then devoted his consciousness to the hidden inscription. The anti-sleepwalking locking device he prepared in advance has 18 steel needles. As long as he moves in his sleepwalking, it will prick the 18 most sensitive pain points on his body, and he will definitely wake up. Li Ziyi entered the hidden secret realm and found that those frozen memories about Che had made new progress. He suddenly understood vaguely that the hymn of the temple seemed to be one of the keys to unlock Li Ziyi's hidden secret realm. There was also a sermon meeting in the secret realm. The preacher was Lan, and the only one who accepted the sermon was Che. The soothing and graceful singing was exactly the same tune as the one sung by Chen Tong. After the chanting ended, Lan asked with concern, Che, how do you feel? Are there still evil thoughts in your heart? How can I have any evil thoughts? Che smiled and said, it's just that the battles have been more frequent recently. You are too cautious. Lan curled his lips and said with some anger, then you asked me to show you the master's detailed explanation of God's gift. You would rather seek the cause of the disorder of God's gift by yourself than let me help you solve the spiritual bondage. Che lowered his head and said a little embarrassedly. I just don't want you to become more tired after every battle, okay? I'm your confidant, don't I know what you're thinking? You want to become stronger than me, why don't you just tell me directly? Why spend so much time on it? Lan took out a quaint booklet like a magic trick and handed it to Che, and whispered, after you have finished reading it, ask me if you don't understand anything, don't let anyone know also, don't improve your strength too much at one time, it will arouse suspicion. Che's smile froze awkwardly, and for a long time he refused to take the booklet. Only when Lan feigned anger did he finally take it with both hands. After Lan left, Che opened the booklet, skimmed through it, and then focused on a section about divine assimilation. The star-like power within the temple's brethren has a sacred name, divine power. Divine assimilation is the method and concept of integrating and returning the various forms of divine power scattered across the starry sky. As his genetic memories continued to fast forward, Che's understanding of divine assimilation deepened, forming his own unique interpretation. Finally, one day, Che arrived at a secluded location. Several vampires were already waiting for him. They showed great respect for Che, bowing deeply upon seeing him. Then, one of them produced a metal cylinder engraved with patterns. Che placed his hand on the cylinder, and the intricate patterns absorbed his blood, instantly blossoming into a blood-red flower. Inside the metal cylinder was a scroll. Li Zhe opened it and wrote the words 13th. A vampire stepped forward, his face radiating the resolute determination of a man ready to die. Che calmly grasped the vampire's neck and, with a look of encouragement from the vampire, bit through his throat, absorbing his lifeblood. Raging blood instantly filled Che's body. Two forces, incompatible with each other, began to devour, clash, and consume each other. This not only inflicted severe trauma on Che's body but also caused his blood to boil wildly, leaving him delirious and nearly howling. Che, enduring the intense pain, began to meditate on the description of divine assimilation in the detailed explanation of divine gift, searching for a way to resolve the conflict within his blood. After an unknown amount of time, the conflict subsided. His injured body healed at an inhuman pace, and his bloodline power surged. The most noticeable change within him was the appearance of a small, incomplete inscription, plunder. After Che calmed down the blood in his body, the power of his blood slowly concealed itself, and another simple inscription appeared. Hide. After Che calmed down, he was in a daze for a long time. Then he took out a pen and paper and began to write some thoughts about plundering on the scroll. Above the words 13th were the words 12th, 11th, and so on. Each time, it was the life of a vampire. Each time, Che walked between life and death. After Che finished writing, he put the thoughts into a metal tube engraved with patterns and handed it to the vampire outside. Give it to my brother and tell him that I have completed the family's mission. Sir, are you really not going with me? The vampire asked in surprise. This is not your concern. Don't contact me again without my summons. Yes, sir. Chen Tong's chanting had ended long ago, but Li Zhe was stunned and it took him a long time to come to his senses. Shouldn't my ancestor be a good person? Although Li Zhe had entered the hidden secret realm countless times in recent days, seeking to uncover the little secrets about Che and Lan from frozen genetic memories, he now truly wished to never learn these secrets. Che was a vampire. To resolve the vampire's bloodline flaws, he infiltrated the temple alone, seeking the temple's most secretive detailed explanation of the divine gift. Ultimately, Che successfully comprehended the plunder inheritance, completely resolving the vampire's bloodline issues and allowing the vampire clan to flourish, ultimately becoming one of the most powerful forces in the universe. From the perspective of the vampires, Che was an undoubted hero. One misstep deep into danger would have resulted in death by burning, yet he ultimately accomplished an almost impossible mission. However, from the perspective of the temple, and even from Li Zhe's perspective, Che could hardly be considered a good person. Lan and Che were each other's confidants, their hearts connected and their love deep and deep. But now, Che had gone from being a confidant to heart thief, and not only had he stolen Lan's heart, but also her body. This moral turning point made Li Zhe feel a little upset. It's not wrong to lie to people, but you have to lie to those who are hateful and despicable. How can he do this to a young lady who is so sincere to him? Li Zhe actually sensed Che's guilt towards Lan. When he saw Lan stole the teacher's detailed explanation of God's gift for him, this guilt reached its peak. But in the end, Che made a heartbreaking decision for the sake of the vampires. There should be a next episode. Che must have his own difficulties, and the two of them will definitely have a happy ending. Li Ziyi, who woke up, entered the hidden secret realm again, wanting to see what happened to Che and Lan in the end. Did Che resolutely disappear after completing his mission, or continue to accompany Lan? However, the genetic memory in the secret realm froze again. Eunuch dog, die? Chapter 70 Update Time Change Notice. Lao Feng has been updating in the early morning these days, but sometimes there are typos and I don't have time to correct them in time, so I will make some minor changes and post 2 chapters at a time in the afternoon. Please don't misunderstand me tomorrow. Lao Feng will still ensure timely updates every day. Chapter 71 We have reinforcements. Chen Tong's sermon was simple. No doctrine was preached, no communion or holy water was distributed, just a simple chant. Yet, this simple chant had a profound effect. As the clear, stream-like sound of the song flowed across the starship deck, many of the temple warriors responded, emitting scattered bursts of starlight. The one-armed captain and several key temple members were ablaze with a dense, star-filled glow, hinting at the potential for a galaxy. Of course, this was merely an intention, a far cry from Li Ziyi's galaxy-like starlight. The captives aboard the Red Rock City were initially resistant, even slightly commotioning when forced to kneel. But as the song wore on, they too fell silent. Like the temple believers, they clasped their hands over their hearts, closed their eyes in reverent silence, and listened long after the song had ceased. They remained obediently on the deck, motionless. Why are psychic-type superpowers so valuable? Because other superpowers control physical strength, while psychic-type superpowers control people's hearts and other superpowers. The sermon finally ended. The one-armed captain, who failed to condense Xiaowan, was not disappointed, because he felt that he had a deeper understanding of the divine power and was one step closer to a higher level of power. Chen Tong returned to her room in the wreckage of the starship and sat there in a daze. Just now, when she was chanting the hymn, she felt that strange response again, but the difference from the last time was that the other party used some unknown method to immediately cut off this response. Why is he resisting me? Am I too reserved? The one-armed captain walked in, his face still full of excitement. Lord Chen Tong, thank you again for your mantra preaching. Many soldiers have realized the secrets bestowed by God, and I think those sinners have also been influenced by the gods and will soon become believers of the gods. As for Wheeler's disappearance, the reason will be found out soon. Chen Tong shook his head slightly. Don't investigate Wheeler's affairs, he is not that important, sir. The danger of insects still exists, so those sinners are needed to resist the insects and atone their sins. If we don't investigate Wheeler's affairs, it will affect our prestige. The one-armed captain looked at Chen Tong's face and said hesitantly, after all, we don't know when our reinforcements will arrive. It will be difficult to rely on our own soldiers. The one-armed captain has tried to be very tactful. Now there are only dozens of surviving temple warriors on his side who are isolated and helpless. The hundreds of sinners are good cannon fodder. They must be deterred by Wheeler's affairs, otherwise they will become more and more daring. But Chen Tong said, no, we have reinforcements. Reinforcements? Where are they? The one-armed captain was puzzled. The starship's communications room was manned around the clock, and there had been no reply from reinforcements. Chen Tong affirmed, he will appear when we're in danger. The one-armed captain's face twitched slightly. He believed Chen Tong's god worship was acting up. The temple's doctrine was that all things in the world are gifts from God, and the gods will respond to sincere hearts, but those temple warriors working on the front lines understood that in many cases, the gods were unreliable and one had to rely on oneself. However, the Orthodox monks were all extreme worshippers of the gods. In their belief, devout believers would inevitably be blessed by the gods. If the gods didn't save you, then your heart was surely not sincere enough, and you deserved death. Tap, 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 the sound of running footsteps echoed, and someone reported from the doorway, Captain, the insects are moving again. What? The one-armed captain rushed in. What exactly is going on, Captain? Just now, our underground vibration detectors, 20 miles away, have responded. Large insects are burrowing towards us. How many are there? The one-armed captain grew nervous. Large insects could be either mammoths or queens. Since the technical officer was so nervous, it was most likely the latter. There are quite a few, but it doesn't seem like the vibrations are caused by a queen, a new species. The one-armed captain frowned. Because they presented little value or threat, neither the Federation nor the vampires had conducted detailed research on the insects. Only now, in the actual confrontation, did they realize their lack of intelligence. Wu, an alarm suddenly blared, and the temple warriors on duty shouted a warning. Air attack, long-range air attack. The one-armed captain flashed onto the starship's deck and was greeted by countless streams of lavender plasma, overwhelming them like a purple water dragon. The wreckage's energy shields had automatically activated, blocking all the plasma streams. Puff, bang, the impact of the plasma streams was so immense that not only did ripples ripple through the energy shields, but even the wreckage shook violently, as if it would capsize at any moment. The one-armed captain gasped and shouted, "Intelligence officer, immediately determine the enemy's exact location. Main gunner, torpedo operator, prepare long-range countermeasures." A drone, larger than a carriage, took to the sky and flew towards the direction of the plasma streams. For the past few days, it had been of little use. But after only 2 minutes of flight, the reconnaissance plane saw several plasma streams rising into the sky in the distance, completely engulfed by the crossfire. The anti-aircraft guns were like swatting a mosquito, leaving not even a speck of dust. Fortunately, a makeshift scanning radar atop the wreckage's mast managed to pinpoint the source of the plasma stream. Over a dozen miles away, a stream of blue plasma erupted from nowhere in the desolate wasteland, hurling itself like a space torpedo, striking the wreckage with pinpoint accuracy. The one-armed captain decisively ordered, "Range 15,500, bearing 17 feet 36, fire 12 torpedoes." The torpedoes were quickly launched, but soon after, the radar readings shifted. The plasma streams had shifted, evidently the insects had dug holes in the ground, shifting their locations with each shot. Range 15,200, bearing 21 feet 17, fire 6 torpedoes. The one-armed captain began to sweat. The wreckage's space torpedo reserves were running low, and there was no telling how many of these long-range attacking insects there were. He had no idea how many would survive. Even more devastating was the starship's insufficient energy reserves, and the energy shield wouldn't hold up for long. The plasma streams flowing from the shields had burned the nearby gravel into charred black. This was clearly a deadly weapon capable of destroying the enemy with a single strike. "Master Chen Tong, do you think it would be effective if I sent Thor and Quinn to charge in?" the one-armed captain asked anxiously. There were only 2 mechas on the starship's wreckage, reserved for Chen Tong's evacuation. If the one-armed captain wanted to use the mechas to charge the enemy, he had to consult Chen Tong. Chen Tong shook his head and said, "There must be a queen lurking near those plasma-spewing bugs. Thor and Quinn haven't condensed their star swirls and lack the ability to withstand the queen's close-range psychic attack. Even if I follow them, they won't be able to withstand the queen's close-range psychic attack." The one-armed captain gave a bitter smile. "Then, Master Chen Tong, you should leave. Since joining the temple, we no longer fear death. But please, when you return to the temple, plead for our families." Chen Tong remained silent, lost in thought as he stood on the trembling starship deck. If the mecha troops could assault the plasma bugs, either directly or with close-range, precision-guided space torpedoes, the crisis could be resolved. However, the pilots leading the assault must be able to withstand the psychic attack, otherwise they would inevitably die at the hands of the lurking queen. And there might be only one person on this planet who possesses such qualities. The intelligence officer ran over, anxiously shouting, "Captain, the insect army has appeared again, more numerous than ever before." The one-armed captain knelt on one knee, head bowed, and pleaded with Chen Tong, "Sir, please evacuate immediately." Chen Tong sighed, parted her red lips, and uttered a sound. A gentle hymn flowed through the valley, carrying her thoughts and spreading outward, searching for that uncertain response. Chapter 72. It's an exchange, not a deception. A blue dragon soared into the sky, overwhelming the sky. Li Ziyi, looking at the crumbling starship wreckage beneath a blue plasma stream, was momentarily bewildered. "Isn't this StarCraft? How did it become Starship Troopers? Have I traveled through time? Or am I having a hyper-realistic dream?" Although Li Ziyi had never thoroughly played the venerable StarCraft game, he knew there were no Zerg units capable of ultra-long-range plasma jets. The blue plasma stream streaking across the sky before him was reminiscent of a scene from Starship Troopers. He had been deeply impressed by the plasma worms from the movie. Plasma worms, the Zerg's repellent weapons, could fire high-energy plasma arcs from their rear ends, precisely targeting starship targets in planetary orbit. They were practically anti-aircraft artillery. From the moment he saw the plasma worms, Li Ziyi's view of the bugs completely changed. Although he hated to admit it, he had to admit that the bug's targeted evolution represented another pathway of technological development. The Zerg civilization was no longer a frail, ant-like existence, but a race with a rigorous organizational structure and developed intelligence, even a civilization capable of competing with humanity in the universe. Now, terrifying streams of plasma swept across the sky before Li Ziyi, shocking him deeply. This isn't a dream. In a dream, pinching my thigh wouldn't hurt, and exercising my right hand wouldn't feel good, Li Ziyi pondered carefully, confirming that he wasn't dreaming. Instead, the memories of their ancestors were gradually awakening in the minds of certain people on Langsing, leading to the creation of games like StarCraft and Starship Troopers. Boom. Boom. Explosions echoed in the distance. The temple's troops counterattacked the Zerg with a barrage of space torpedoes, creating a huge commotion. But Li Ziyi knew that this time, the temple's troops would have a hard time escaping unscathed. The Zerg hadn't attacked for days, apparently incubating a new type of military unit, the Plasma Zerg. Now, they were well prepared, and the wreckage of their starship, with insufficient ammunition and energy reserves, was completely at a disadvantage. As expected, dozens of consecutive plasma streams struck the wreckage, and the ripples of the energy shield began to crack. What should I do? Just watch them get slaughtered by the insects? Li Ziyi hesitated. After all, the people in the temple were his crucial means of leaving this planet. Just then, Chen Tuang's singing voice flowed over again, resonating with Li Ziyi's heart. Li Ziyi had already understood from his experiences in the secret realm that this kind of spiritual resonance was called intimate connection. In other words, the chanter on the wreckage held a special connection with him. If he opened his heart and gave up his intense resistance to her singing, a mysterious connection of telepathy would form between them. This connection was highly similar to the psychic connection between Li Ziyi and Mu Yu, forged through blood, but the intimate connection was more profound, going beyond simply sensing each other's emotions. Li Ziyi's ancestor, Lord Che, had used this intimate connection to gain Lan's trust, and then began a series of actions that left Li Ziyi feeling frustrated. Chen Tong's voice grew louder and louder, a hint of impatience creeping into her gentleness. What should I do now? Tell her I have vampire blood, or, like our ancestors did, use confidence to deceive her? Tell her to take me away from here and then we'll be apart. Li Ziyi was distracted, while Chen Tong's eyes were blazing with anxiety. She had already chanted 2 verses of the hymn, but received no response. The wreckage of the starship was crumbling. She had to make a decisive decision, to hold on or to retreat. But if she abandoned the wreckage and retreated, the temple warriors and vampire captives, without their protective shield, would face the relentless harassment of the insects and face certain death. Sir, retreat. It will be too late. The one-armed captain was beside himself with anxiety. 2 pilots had already activated their mechas, ready to escort Chen Tong to the retreat. But Chen Tong suddenly glanced toward the cliff to the side, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. The one-armed captain and the others turned to look, seeing a tiny figure appear on the cliffside. This is an exchange, not a deception, Li Ziyi repeated to himself repeatedly. He finally understood. He'd decided not to tell Chen Tuang about his bloodline. But Li Ziyi wasn't deceiving her, he was exchanging, saving the temple's survivors in exchange for Chen Tong's help in leaving this insect planet. Li Ziyi first used his consciousness to vibrate the height inscription, then attempted to open his heart and accept Chen Tong's guidance in the sacred chant. From his experience in the Hive's secret realm, Li Ziyi knew that this was how Che had acted. Using the vampire's unique talent for concealment, and through enhanced psychological suggestion, he blocked Lan's confidant from fully exploring his mind, concealing certain hidden psychological information deep within his heart. Now that Li Ziyi possessed the hidden inscription, a modified version of Che, he was certain he could perform a protective filter on his mind. Chen Tong's mind relayed, gently saying, "We need your help now, masked man." Li Ziyi's forehead began to sweat. He'd been wearing a mask throughout Red Castle Manor. Did she know his identity? Or had that bastard Wheeler been lying to him, spilling all the details about the masked man who'd given him the information? Whatever the case, Li Ziyi couldn't have a deep conversation with Chen Tong right now, or he'd be exposed. Given the temple's attitude toward vampires, and his own status as a future vampire boss, the consequences were, ho-ha-ho-ha. Li Ziyi forced himself to calm down and replied to Chen Tong with his mind, "I can help you, but you must keep my identity secret for me. After your reinforcements arrive, I will quietly follow you away, Chen Tong. Of course, I admire your efforts and sacrifices for the people. Please accept my sincere respect." Li Ziyi was confused again. It was difficult to hide lies in a special spiritual resonance relationship like intimate. So what exactly did Chen Tong mean by his respect for him? Chen Tong did not wait for Li Ziyi's reply immediately, and contacted him again mentally. "We can hold on for 15 minutes at most. Now we must make a decision whether to retreat." Li Ziyi estimated and said, "Give me a mecha, give me 10 minutes. Chen Tong stopped chanting and turned to order. "Thor, you and Quinn, advance to the valley entrance, and then hand over your mecha to our reinforcements." Pilot Quinn said with some concern, "Is it the man on the cliff just now?" "But the mobile suit he's wearing seems to be of the vampire style," Chen Tong said sternly. "Don't try to understand his identity. Follow my orders immediately." Thor was silent for a few seconds, then gritted his teeth and said, "Sir, we are confident that we can complete all the tasks. We don't need anyone else." "You can't," Chen Tong interrupted Thor, saying coldly, "We don't have much time. Every second you delay puts us in greater danger." Thor and Quinn didn't dare to disobey Chen Tong's orders again. They immediately jumped off the starship deck, dodging the flying insect plasma and rushing towards the end of the valley. When they reached the valley entrance, they saw Li Ziyi's tattered mobile suit and felt very dissatisfied. The temple's mechas are the finest in the entire universe, and the pilots are naturally the best too. Why would they give their mechas to someone else? Thor opened the cockpit canopy and said coldly to Li Ziyi, who had just climbed in, "Do you need me to explain the controls?" But before he could finish his words, his arm was grabbed by the other man, and he was flung out of the cockpit with a whoosh. Thor landed on the ground with a thud, a chill running down his spine. Because of the doubts surrounding Li Ziyi's identity, he had been extremely vigilant. He saw the man reaching for his shoulder and tried his best to dodge and resist, but ultimately, he couldn't. It was like a 5 or 6-year-old wrestling with a 20-year-old. He could do all the tricks, but the other man's simple, all-encompassing moves were no match for him. "Thor, are you okay? Come on up, we're chasing them." Quinn, standing next to him, opened the cockpit of his mecha and called for Thor to get in. "It's over. My reputation is ruined in an instant." Thor felt a chill in his heart. Because Quinn was watching. He was a B-rank pilot. He was being thrown out like that. Where would he put his face? Would Quinn keep his secret? Haha. Thor climbed into Quinn's mech and sat silently in the mechanic's auxiliary seat, wondering how he could ask Quinn to keep his secret if he could make it back alive this time. But a minute later, Thor was completely relieved. Quinn, who had always believed in his exceptional mech piloting skills, had been pulled away by Li Ziyi in a matter of minutes. Thor and Quinn were both piloting 6th-generation Holy Light mechas, boasting extremely powerful maneuverability and capable of bursting top speeds over 350 km per hour. But let alone 350 km per hour, even 250 km per hour was beyond Thor and Quinn's control. They would fall head over heels, and if they weren't careful, they could break their legs. The speed of the mecha in front is almost 400. And looking at the appearance of the Holy Light mecha, it is obviously a machine without any spiritual energy, but it has a sense of elegance and freedom. A Class A pilot is not necessarily so awesome, right? A pilot of this level must be admired. Quinn, who do you think this bastard is? Thor, I think we should respect him now. Quinn knew very well that no matter who this person was, he and Thor could not afford to offend him. Chapter 73 Chen Tong knows everything. Li Ziyi hadn't expected to reach the maximum speed of his Holy Light mech on his first try, so much so that the speed limit alarm in the cockpit sounded. It took Li Ziyi only a few seconds to familiarize himself with this new temple mech. Drawing on countless battle experiences in the secret realm, he found the controls incredibly familiar. Following the path of the plasma stream streaking overhead, Li Ziyi covered the 15,000 units in just 2 minutes, reaching the plasma worm's launch position. Underground warfare? What a talent! Countless large pits dotted the once desolate plain, interconnected by gullies. Dozens of plasma worms dotted and hid within them, their rear ends raised, spraying plasma streams into the sky. From Li Ziyi's perspective, he could barely make out 7 or 8 plasma worms, having just launched, and now hurriedly shifting positions along the gullies to avoid the onslaught of space torpedoes. Its massive body, weakened by the sheer volume of energy it had expended, moved slowly, like a fleet of oversized dung beetles. Buzz! Li Ziyi, piloting the holy light mech, sped towards them. The guarding insects, clearly unprepared for such a rapid assault, were unable to react as Li Zihe dove from behind into the ravine. The large-caliber kinetic cannons on the holy light mech roared, unleashing a barrage of explosives at the ejection ports on the plasma worms' bellies. Like rain on chrysanthemums, the plasma worms, as artillery units, had inherently thin shells, and Li Zihe's blistering accuracy instantly annihilated the entire horde. The plasma within the worms' bodies gushed out into the ravine, sending countless arcs of electricity raging and swamping the surrounding hydralisks. Ruthless, Li Zihe had already scurried into another ravine, advancing rapidly along a hidden passage the worms had dug themselves. Countless battles in the secret realm had honed Li Zihe's battlefield observation skills. He had memorized the launch locations of the plasma worms during his assaults. Now, he simply needed to calculate their precise launch positions based on their speed and his own danger perception. Having battled countless insects in the secret realm, Li Zihe finally understood the immense power of mecha assault weapons against them. While low-level insects like hydralisks and springtails proved impervious to attack, Li Zihe, with his mastery of combat, could easily find their vital points and deliver a fatal blow against larger combat weapons like mammoths and dragons. Li Zihe, in his ferocity, was unstoppable, dispatching 3 successive squadrons of plasma worms in less than 2 minutes. Quinn and Thor, who had been chasing them for a long time, had just arrived at the battlefield. Seeing the blasted plasma worms erupt with countless arcs of electricity, Li Zihe, surrounded by the swarm, slashed them like a god of war. This immediately aroused the pride of a temple warrior, fueling a fierce desire to fight. What is a mecha? It's a mechanical, powered armor, crushing ordinary bugs with ease. It's a powerful weapon for harvesting merit. How could an outsider gain Master Chen Tuang's trust and sweep across the battlefield with our temple's mecha? And we, the great temple warriors, must stand by and watch these countless bugs, merits, indifferently? But just as the two had identified a target and were about to unleash their full might, they suddenly felt a sharp pain in their heads. Their brains buzzed, and they stumbled, nearly falling to the ground. Hiss, the queen insect appeared, unleashing a powerful mental assault. Li Zihe's mental resistance was exceptional, and coupled with his constant vigilance against the queen, he wasn't greatly affected. However, the stardust within him, barely formed days ago, seemed provoked, instantly erupting into a small star spiral that rapidly expanded to envelop Li Zihe's entire body. Hiss, hiss, another, completely different mental attack joined in, instantly forming a cross-scan attack on Li Zihe. 2 queens? What a double blessing! Xiaowan enveloped Li Zihe, slowly spinning around him. A cooling sensation, like water, washed over him, completely repelling the queen's influence. Instead, the plunder inscription within Li Zihe's body began to vibrate with excitement. Long-suppressed greed and desire once again surged within him. Just wait patiently. Don't run. However, Li Zihe didn't rush to find the queens. Instead, he quickly searched the battlefield, searching for any trace of the plasma worm army and eliminating their long-range threat to the starship wreckage. The 2 queens' mental impact quickly spread, and was soon sensed by Chen Tong, who remained on the wreckage. Worried, she began chanting solemnly, providing remote support to Li Zihe. Traditionally, the frail chanter had been responsible for this kind of witness support. No matter how fierce the battle on the front lines, she had to provide moral support to the soldiers in a safe environment. Quinn, having fallen to the ground, struggled to his feet, swinging his arms to swat away the pecking bugs that were swarming his mech, barely managing to defend himself. But expecting them to fight the queen of insects was out of the question. Chen Tuang's singing only served to alleviate their mental distractions, but they couldn't unleash their inner starlight potential like Li Zihe, making them completely unable to confront the queen head-on. While Li Zihe plotted how to capture the 2 cunning queens, the temple warriors on the wreckage of the starship were experiencing a different experience. Within just 5 minutes, the blue plasma streams from the sky significantly decreased, reaching only a few sparse bursts in the final minute, completely threatening the starship's energy shields. The one-armed captain, previously visibly anxious, stared at Chen Tong in shock, his words pausing as he paused, a sense of deep guilt welling up in his heart. Chen Tong had just asked Thor to hand over his mech to an outsider, and he'd been deeply resentful. The temple's holy light mechas were classified equipment, with strict regulations governing their use. If any leaks occurred, he, the captain, would be held jointly responsible. Yet, in just a few minutes, dozens of Zerg weapons capable of firing plasma streams were nearly eliminated, leaving the crumbling starship wreckage impregnable once again. Could this be accomplished by one person alone? And by an outsider wearing a vampire-style mobile suit? Compared to them, aren't we, the god's subjects, a bit insignificant? The one-armed captain was lost in thought when Chen Tong suddenly stopped chanting and decisively ordered, range 18,500, bearing 21 feet 49, close range guidance mode. The one-armed captain immediately directed the torpedo crew, setting the space torpedoes to the guidance mode corresponding to the holy light mechas and launching them in the direction indicated by Chen Tong. Close range guidance mode involves a human near the target using a designator to guide the torpedoes for a precise strike. The roaring torpedoes descended upon their designated location in just over 10 seconds. The guidance device on the seeker head immediately received the guidance signal from Li Zhe's mecha. They're actually moving underground. How cunning! Li Zhe sensed the source of the rapidly moving mental impact and adjusted the indicator's direction. The torpedoes in the air suddenly split into two groups, constantly fine-tuning their landing direction, and with a boom they slammed into the ground far from the battlefield. Squeak, 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 two insect queens, as big as small mountains, were blasted out. A mixture of anger and fear spread indiscriminately to the surroundings. Li Zhe sensed the insect queen's consciousness. They were not only filled with anger and fear, but also with deep confusion. This was no surprise. The two insect queens had been fighting each other on this planet since birth. All their intelligence and combat experience came from their parents. They had never encountered an opponent as formidable as humans. They were quick learners. By learning about war in battle, they evolved into long-range soldiers like plasma worms. Their long-range bombardment nearly annihilated the survivors of the temple. However, their war experience was still too shallow, and they couldn't fully grasp the combat methods of human technology in such a short period of time. Although the two insect queens were hiding underground and constantly moving, the space torpedoes that descended from the sky, guided by Li Zhe's illumination, were completely different from the previous blanket attacks. They could also adjust their tracking targets, and with a single strike, they blasted them out of the ground. Li Zhe swiftly charged forward with his mecha. Starlight flashed continuously, severing the insect queen's wing membranes and forward horns, destroying their burrowing and flight abilities. Xiaowan unsheathed his knife, and the plundering began. The two insect queens converged, and a swarm of insects madly descended on Li Zhe. However, with the power of his mecha, Li Zhe easily fended off the frenzied insect swarm. These insects' tactics are really mediocre. Li Zhe, a ruthless man who had slaughtered countless insects with Che in the Killing Secret Realm, felt that these insects were vastly inferior to those in the Secret Realm in terms of both tactics and combat effectiveness. Just as Li Zhe was feeling refreshed from his plunder, Chen Tong's telepathic connection suddenly relayed a thought. You must be careful when using this forbidden technique, divine assimilation, and don't let anyone else see. How did she know all this? Li Zhe broke out in a cold sweat, furious. This bastard woman, doesn't she know that interrupting someone else's good fortune can easily lead to serious consequences? Chapter 74 Two Masked Men. Note, this chapter is a bit convoluted and will be expanded upon later, so please bear with me. Because of Chen Tong's good-natured advice, Li Zhe didn't plunder and drain the queen immediately. Instead, he plundered a weaker queen until it was nearly dead, then gave it a lavish funeral with a round of incendiary bombs. Another larger queen was lucky enough to escape Li Zhe's carelessness, surviving for a few hours before being quietly caught up by the cunning Li Zhe and drained. Li Zhe then used the stealth inscription to completely sever contact with Chen Tong and embarked on a race-style killing spree. The Holy Light Mech possessed immense speed, capable of patrolling a hunting area thousands of miles in a short period of time. Li Zhe's superior perception, combined with countless years of experience in the Slaughter Secret Realm, made all the massive, veteran queens within 1,000,000 square miles his prey. It wasn't because they could plunder and refine an unusually large number of life droplets, but rather because the juvenile queens were small, and the passages within their nests were too narrow. Even the Holy Light Mech, though significantly smaller than the Blood Blade, couldn't fit through. Overnight, the insects within 1,000,000 square miles collectively evolved a new nesting plan, burrowing thousands of meters above ground and moving deeper underground. Li Ziyi, with nearly 200 pale golden life droplets within him, finally received a subconscious reminder of his sleeping advancement. What a shame. Time to go. Li Ziyi turned and headed towards the wreckage of the temple starship. Only when he was within 100 miles did he remove the height inscription and release his aura. A few minutes later, Chen Tong's mind scanned him, exhausted and anxious. When she sensed Li Ziyi, she immediately established a telepathic connection. Are you okay? Li Ziyi replied calmly, I'm fine. I cleared out the nearby bugs. Cleaned out bugs? Did you encounter the queen? Are you mentally injured? Li Ziyi was silent for a few seconds before replying, I encountered a juvenile queen. I suffered a minor injury, nothing serious. Wait a moment, I'll be right there. Li Ziyi didn't refuse. He also wanted to talk to Chen Tong alone. He had many questions he needed answers to, but he wasn't sure how much Chen Tong would reveal. For example, about the masked man. Or about the divine fusion. The connection of intimate was magical. In the desolate and deserted wilderness, the two of them met precisely, walking opposite each other. Li Ziyi invited Chen Tong to the cockpit of the Holy Light Mecha, where they sat opposite each other in the 4 or 5 square meter space. Chen Tong stared into Li Ziyi's eyes for several seconds, as if searching for something. Li Ziyi, meeting Chen Tong's gaze closely, her deep, starry eyes made him feel trance-like. After a moment, Chen Tong breathed a sigh of relief and said, Open your heart, and I will soothe the evil thoughts within you. I have no evil thoughts, no need for soothing sermons. Li Ziyi was wary of Chen Tong and naturally didn't want to cause any trouble. Chen Tong wore a white veil, so Li Ziyi couldn't see her expression, but he could sense her hesitation. Finally, Chen Tong spoke the information Li Ziyi needed. You should know that studying God-given fusion is extremely dangerous. The queen insect is so huge, how dare you take the risk of fusing their power? An extremely dangerous situation. Li Ziyi was surprised, and said indifferently, Is it more dangerous than this time? I almost stayed in that cold space forever. Chen Tong said humbly, We are not sure which ship you are on. In order to avoid accidental injuries, we resorted to boarding, but we didn't expect to encounter an engine explosion. Li Ziyi's heart moved, and he asked calmly, The Red Rock City exploded, what about the other Blood Clan starships? Did you let them escape? I'm not sure about that, Chen Tong said, because the source of the intelligence this time was not a normal channel. The federal military could not verify the authenticity of the intelligence at first. Later, the military and the supervisory department jointly verified this intelligence, and happened to find out that you had infiltrated the Blood Clan and were about to follow the Red Castle family to the Twilight Continent. Based on the time you sent back the information, we finally confirmed the authenticity of the intelligence. Because we wasted so much time verifying the intelligence, we couldn't organize a dedicated interception fleet. We had to order the patrol fleet in the nearby airspace to launch an ambush. We just happened to be in the nearby airspace, so we barely made it. As for whether the other interception fleet reached the ambush location, I don't know. Oh. So there's another interception fleet. Li Ziyi spoke calmly, but he was shocked inside. Then came an intense anxiety. He was now worried about Miu and Ethan. He had considered waiting for Miu to rescue him, but it turned out that she might have also been ambushed by the Federation. And from what Chen Tong said, Miu was hiding with 2 extremely dangerous masked men from different organizations. One was the guy who asked Wheeler to change the warp parameters of Red Rock City, and the other was actually himself. The former had no normal intelligence channels with the Federation military, so he was most likely on the side of the Blood Clan, who didn't want Miu to return to Twilight Continent. The other himself was actually an undercover agent from the supervisory department, who had infiltrated the Red Castle family and was accompanying the fleet heading to Twilight Continent. Chen Tong obviously mistook Li Ziyi for the undercover agent of the supervisory department, and the name Masked Man was most likely his code name. After all, Li Ziyi had come into contact with Corey from the supervisory department, and she had a code name called Xiaowan. Is the supervisory department also targeting Miu now? Li Ziyi remembered the Battle of Valley No. 6, when the Federation Army's starship risked landing in orbit to eliminate Miu. Obviously, Miu's outstanding talent had attracted the attention of various forces. Chen Tong saw that Li Ziyi was silent and thought that she had accused him of having evil thoughts in his heart, which made him feel disgusted. She was not good at communicating with people, so at this time she had to try her best to persuade Li Ziyi gently. Before Lu Chenfeng taught you the divine fusion, he should have told you that using it would leave dangerous side effects. You might not feel them now, but they'll be very troublesome later. Li Zihe was stunned for a moment, then followed Chen Tuang's lead and said, he only briefly mentioned it, not explicitly. Li Zihe was even more surprised, for he realized that the masked man who had infiltrated the Red Castle family was no ordinary spy. Not only did he know the secret temple technique of divine fusion from the hidden secret realm, he also knew Lu Chenfeng. While in Hongyan City, Li Zihe had learned about some of the world's top experts through Mu Yu, so that he could be more cautious in dealing with them in the future. Among them was Lu Chenfeng, a very mysterious Federation expert. While nominally a member of the Federal Supervisory Department, he was in reality the most powerful superpowered person the department had seen in 100 years. Even the current head of the Federal Supervisory Department, the Minister of Supervision, respectfully addressed him as teacher. Although he had been absent from the Federation for years, he had a permanent seat on the Federal Council reserved for him, along with voting rights in the Federal Executive Committee. The masked man had received personal instruction from Lu Chenfeng, making him a crucial figure within the Supervisory Department. If such a key figure were to approach Mu Yu and Ethan, they would undoubtedly pose a grave threat. Li Zihe looked up at Chen Tong, a plan forming in his mind. He needed to confirm Mu Yu and Ethan's whereabouts as quickly as possible. If they were safe, he would track down the two masked men and eliminate the hidden danger once and for all. The clues fell on Chen Tong. All right. If you insist on soothing the evil within me, I'd be honored. Upon hearing Li Zihe's words, Chen Tong didn't suspect anything. She simply drank some liquid to moisten her throat before beginning to chant hymns to soothe Li Zihe's heart. However, Chen Tong had no idea that this ordinary private sermon would lead to such an unexpected incident. Chapter 75 Accident. Li Zihe had spent the entire night concealing his presence and slaughtering and plundering. Chen Tong had also tried to call out to him, leaving his throat dry and his spirits drooping. But when she began to chant the hymn, Li Zihe was still moved by its magical power. The gentle singing echoed in his ears, and Li Zihe suddenly recalled the scenes in the hidden secret realm. Back then, Lan had done the same thing, using her singing to soothe the murderous bonds within Che and dispel the evil in his heart. Now, Li Zihe seemed to be following in Che's footsteps, accepting Chen Tong's soothing words and preparing some kind of deceptive excuse in exchange for what he needed. This is an exchange. I've helped them enough, and it's time to get something in return. Li Zihe quickly reminded himself to ward off the nagging guilt. But his reminders were short-lived and completely failed. But unlike before, the subsequent hidden fragments were fully revealed. In the small cockpit of the Holy Light Mecha, Chen Tong opened her eyes wide, staring at the misty nebula that enveloped her in a daze. If the chanting of the hymn had not been deeply rooted in her bones, the singing would have stopped long ago. The small stardust in Li Zihe's body slowly bloomed with a melodious singing, like a beautiful star wheel, enveloping him and Chen Tong, slowly rotating like a galaxy. Li Zihe, who was in the center of the star wheel, closed his eyes, his face was a little red, and his breathing was a little rapid. As Li Zihe's mood changed, the star wheel like a galaxy also transformed into colorful light, blurring Chen Tong's eyes and blurring her soul. Another group of misty nebula was naturally released from Chen Tong's body, overlapping, intersecting, and resonating with Li Zihe's star wheel, slowly merging and tightly entangled. Li Zihe and Chen Tong's bodies both floated up, and as the star wheel and nebula intersected, they approached each other irresistibly. Chen Tong felt a wave of fear, but then, suddenly, she heard the sound of an eggshell cracking. A surging torrent of consciousness suddenly erupted, a flood of memories flooding her mind, encroaching upon her spiritual space. She sensed a long-hidden, lingering memory. A stunningly beautiful woman named Lan, a handsome man named Che. Since awakening the killing secret realm, Li Zihe had ventured into it countless times to hone his skills, the immersive experience deeply affecting him. When Che was injured in the secret realm, he felt genuine pain. Even after leaving it, the pain took a long time to dissipate. And this time, as Lan and Che engaged in a deep, distance communication, Li Zihe felt the reality of the secret realm reach a new level. The touch of skin was so real that he completely empathized with Che, hugging and squeezing Lan in his arms. Li Zihe's feeling was so clear. Those deep, gleaming eyes were right before him, so mesmerizing. He didn't know when it started, but he'd lost track of who was Che and who was Zihe. And strangely, although he could always see those eyes, as deep as the night sky, he kept feeling like the person in his arms was sometimes Lan and sometimes not. After an unknown amount of time, Li Zhe suddenly woke up, gasping for air. Since arriving on this insect planet, he had never relaxed his vigilance against the outside world. Even when he occasionally fell asleep, he would dig several meters into the ground and bury himself. But just now, he was convinced he had lost all sense of the outside world, reveling only in the wildness of his confusion. Li Zhe felt a chill, and his hair stood on end. Although the mecha cockpit had an automatic temperature control system, his body, unprotected by clothing, instinctively felt the chill. Li Zhe also smelled several unusual odors. A vampire's sense of smell is incredibly sharp. He quickly distinguished one scent as heather, the other as blood. Li Zhe slowly turned his head, like a robot starving for oil, and looked at the person beside him. Dots of red splattered the floor, like plum blossom petals blown away by the cold wind. The snow-white robe and veil were gone, leaving only a wisp of straight hair scattered across the metal floor of the cockpit, obscuring the jade-like whiteness and revealing only a frowning face, mottled with shimmering tear marks. Li Zhe was stunned, dumbfounded, bewildered, and lost. At this moment, he had only one thought in his mind. It's over. My first time is over. After Chen Tuang woke up, she didn't scream or hit Li Zhe. She just tidied her clothes silently and sat down to watch the stars. Li Zhe could only accompany him in silence. He didn't know how to speak in this situation. Was it an accident? Li Zhe asked himself if he was that bad. He couldn't tell anyone about the inscription secret realm, could he? This was his biggest secret, and he must not let anyone know. In the end, it was Chen Tong who broke the awkward silence. What are your plans for the future? I'll see what the supervisory department arranges, Chen Tong said. No matter what, you can't go undercover in the Blood Clan anymore. With such a big thing happening, the Blood Clan will definitely investigate all suspicious persons. You have awakened the purest God-given power, and they will definitely detect you. Big deal? Not that big, Li Zhe said indifferently. Not to mention his relationship with Yu, even with his talent for concealment, he was not afraid of any detection. Chen Tong turned to look at Li Zhe and said seriously, don't be careless. Given Yu's current status within the Blood Clan will pursue this matter vigorously, regardless of whether we capture him or not. Given the Blood Clan's ruthless nature, they'd rather kill the innocent than let any suspicious individual go. You're not a direct descendant of the Blood Clan, so you'll be in great danger. Gazing into those deep, closed eyes, Li Zhe felt a mixture of guilt and warmth. You can't go undercover in the Blood Clan anymore, Chen Tuang emphasized solemnly, and Li Zhe sensed her insistence, a hint of toughness. He chuckled softly. Actually, I don't want to go to Twilight Continent right now, but if I return to the supervisory department now, I won't have the right identity. My previous identity can't be made public. Chen Tong's eyebrows curved slightly, and Li Zhe guessed that the corners of her mouth were also curling up beneath her veil. Don't worry about your identity. I can handle it for you, okay? Li Zhe had just heard that Lu Chenfeng had mastered the temple's divine fusion, and he suspected that, as Jiaming had said, there was indeed a special relationship between the supervisory department and the temple. Now Chen Tong's words confirmed his suspicions. The two sat side by side in front of the mecha's cockpit, gazing at the stars all night. The distance between them narrowed from 3 fists to just 1. But as the stars rose, Chen Tong sighed softly and stood up. Our reinforcements have arrived. It's time to leave. Li Zhe silently stood up, suddenly removing his flexible metal mask and standing before Chen Tong, looking at her. What happened between us, you? Chen Tong interrupted Li Zhe. Don't tell anyone about what happened between us. Li Zhe silently activated his mecha and sped towards the distant starship wreckage. However, the Holy Light mecha, which could reach speeds of 400 km per hour, now only reached 80 km per hour. My name is Chen Tong, what about you? A gentle voice suddenly asked from behind. Li Zhe hesitated for a fraction of a second, then turned and said, my name is Li Zhe. Turning back, Li Zhe realized that Chen Tong had removed her veil. Li Zhe's pupils constricted. Because Chen Tong in front of him, apart from the eyes, looks exactly like Lan. Extremely beautiful. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.